Hello everyone, again my name is Etchy. I do a lot of Pokemon speedruns. I know you're seeing a Pikachu on my screen right now just because I'm doing a demo really quickly. There's a lot of cool things I want to talk about with the speedrun, and I'm going to do that, but I think the best way to start is just to explain motion controls first, everyone's favorite thing about every video game ever. I promise it's not as bad or as scary as it sounds. Once you get it down and get really good at it, it is 99% consistent. Yeah, it's not perfect, but most of the time it's consistent. So really quickly, Pokemon Let's Go is a 2018 remake released for the Switch of Pokemon Yellow. It is a cross between the Pokemon Yellow stuff with the modern Gen 7 Pokemon mechanics, and also it's a mix-up with Pokemon Go. So if you look at this screen right now, it's basically what you're used to from like playing Pokemon Go on your mobile device. So how the motion controls work is you can throw Pokeballs. I'm going to try to show my best on the webcam, but if I just throw it down like that, I'll do a direct throw. What I do is I put my Joy-Con into the grip like this, just the single one, because there's a difference between one player and two player stuff. We'll talk about that later too. But I just put one in the grip because this works best for me, and I just throw the entire grip around basically. So if I'm trying to do a straight throw, I kind of just do like a 90-degree like motion like that. With the motion controls, the only thing that matters is like where you start, how fast you go, and where you end up. Pokemon can also jump to the side. We'll see if I can get this Rapidash to do that. Okay, perfect. So it's off to the side right now. It went to the right. There, you also do side throws in this game, and that's usually where things get really hairy, really fast. So the way, again, I kind of do that is rotating my entire Joy-Con and doing like a kind of a swiping movement. I'm not just like moving the Joy-Con to the right typically or going like this unless it's like a very specific distance from me. But it's kind of like a rotation. You want some good torque in there, you know? So if they're like halfway through the right, I'm going to go like this. Kind of like that kind of motion. Kind of moving my whole like forearm, you know? And same thing with the left. Just kind of moving like that. One swift motion, no like hesitation, otherwise the game will mess up your throw for you. And I'll talk more about why it's important to actually hit these throws later. But that's the key thing. There's also two-player stuff you can do. You're going to do a lot of two-player catches in the run. You just kind of turn on the other Joy-Con. You can slot it in like this, and you still just throw the entire Joy-Con. It works the same way, pretty much. So just to demo what it would look like if I want to hit this one. Like that. Similar to the mobile game, there's different types of catches you can get. Excellent, great, nice, or just not even hitting the circle. And for beginners, you want to get the best catch possible as often as possible. But that is the gist of the motion controls. I went through it pretty fast, but I'll talk about it a lot more as we actually do the run. So hopefully that made sense. And there's also, what I would recommend too is if you wanted to do runs of this, definitely practice catching before you do anything else. It is, again, not as bad as it seems, and you have to do it a lot in this game. So we can go ahead and switch over to the normal game view, and I'm going to switch to the actual Eevee game that we're going to go over today. So what is Pokemon Let's Go speedrunning, and why is it cool? So let's take everything everyone here probably knows about speedrunning. You can just kind of throw that out. If you're looking for like a speedrun tutorial today that is going to show you cool glitches and tricks and like really hard to execute things, not here at all. This run is actually really easy to do, especially as a beginner. Very accessible speedrun. Easily one of the most accessible Pokemon speedruns to get into. It's actually the first Pokemon speedrun I ever did. And there's also, if you're looking for maybe like really like always just doing the same thing over and over again and getting faster and faster at it, like, you know, normal speedrunning, this is not that. This is a very weird speedrun. And the reason for that is going back to the catch mechanics we were talking about earlier. There is a catch requirement in this game. Every gym leader in this game has a requirement in order to face them. So Brock, the first gym leader, has a requirement where you have to show him a grass or a water type Pokemon in order to enter his gym. Presumably they did that so you actually have like a super effective Pokemon against the rock type gym leader. Misty's requirement is level 15 Pokemon, so you just have to show her one level 15 Ponemon and then you can challenge her. And then Koga, the typically 6th gym leader, has a similarly fun requirement where you have to show him 50 Pokemon registered in your Pokédex. So that doesn't mean you can catch the same Pokemon 50 times. You have to actually fill up 50 entries in your Pokédex, so 50 unique Pokemon, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way we do that is basically by catching a lot of different Pokemon, evolving a lot of the time, and going from there. And that's what makes the speedrun so unique and different. You may be wondering why I kind of jumped to this part in the run. The intro part doesn't really matter too much. It's very straightforward. I'm running a pretty normal Eevee right now, completely neutral nature. The notes kind of go into the specifics of what to do here. All I do here is just spam tackle until I win. In general, for this run, I'm not going to be explaining things that are spelled out clearly in the notes or basic movement things, because if you want to know like where you should go next or how to get to Pewter City or something, you can just watch this video and just copy my movement, or you just copy anyone's movement. This run has a lot more complex things going on, and it's probably better use of my time to like explain those more complex things that are scarier. Because the movement in this game is really easy. You just kind of moving the joystick around. Movement's not very tight. There's only a couple difficult trainer passes that you have to worry about. And yeah. So, again, not going to talk about that kind of stuff too much, but I will highlight important things as we get there. One of the most important things so far is that if you hold down a button, text speed doubles. So definitely do that. I don't know why that's a thing, but that's like all the modern Pokemon games. And now we're seeing in the overworld that there are lots of Pokemon spawning in the grass. You don't really want to catch anything early on until you get to the forest, typically. There's an exception to that, but don't worry about it if you're starting out. And yeah, so this run's going to basically revolve around doing the catches as efficiently as possible. And when you're a beginner, your goal shouldn't be worrying about like going as fast as possible with those catches, but just actually hitting the 50 Pokemon requirement in time, which is harder than it sounds, especially when I was starting to learn the game. I was very confused as I was doing it. If you want to post the links, Church, there's links to the notes if people want to follow along. There's also a link on the speedrun.com page. If you go to resources, there's like a Pokedex tracker they can use. If you want to see the Pikachu version of the notes, those are also on speedrun.com. There are beginner-specific notes for both versions. And yeah, so the catches, there's a lot to talk about with the catches and the catch routing. Spike actually made a good analogy the other day where he was saying that this run is a lot more like randomizers than a normal speedrun with just the amount of variance run to run. You get new situations and new complicated things to think through every single run. Even someone like me who's been running this game for almost 3 years now, on and off. Like, my runs this past week had many situations I just never experienced before. I was just like, I don't know what to do now. I have to actually think through this, kind of weigh my options, do some math in my head to figure out, okay, this would take this long, this would take this long, which is the better option, stuff like that.
So it relies a lot on just like game knowledge.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is just knowing how to do the catch routing. And we do have good notes on that. There's also like separate documents in the notes I linked for like how the catch logic works and how you should actually kind of adjust when things go bad or what things you should go for. And generally what you want to do as a beginner is just, the best thing to do is just wait until everything you want spawns and then just catch it all. It just makes your life so much easier when you're learning. And that's what I'm going to basically show here. I'm also not going to show a lot of like really fancy advanced catch tricks or really fast catching things like YOLO throwing everything like I do in my actual speedruns, because it's not super useful for beginners, because again, you should kind of wait things out. And I'll explain it more when we actually start doing some catching, but all these fights are literally just spam tackle because it's our only good move right now. And I'll talk more about the fighting aspect once we get past this section, because this is a very catch intensive part. Okay, this is how this fight goes badly, is you get sand attack and you miss and then it sand attacks again. Okay, cool. Pikachu version just one shots this thing because it's Thunder Shock, but not as fun on Eevee sometimes. I can also talk about version differences later if you are interested in this game and you're not sure if you want to do Eevee or Pikachu. I'll talk about that later on in the run. I'll have a lot of time to explain things once we get deeper into it.
Okay.
So here I just picked up a lure. This is an item that you're going to use a lot of the time. Basically, anytime you want to catch things, you're going to be popping one of these. What it does is it influences like Pokemon spawning and also influences the level they spawn at. So right now in the forest, Pokemon can spawn between level 3 and 6 normally. If I use this lure, until it runs out, all Pokemon are forced to be level 7 if they spawn after I use this. And level is important because level influences the amount of experience you get. For Eevee version, the most important thing for forest is, well, there's two important things. One is getting your grass-type Pokemon so you can fight Brock. 2, getting to level 10 so you actually learn Double Kick so you can defeat Brock. And then 3 is getting some bug Pokemon because they're worth a lot of Pokedex entries. So what I want to look for here is Caterpie, Weedle, and Bellsprout. Bellsprout, I can also get on the second route, and same with Caterpie and Weedle, but they're less ideal. Definitely smarter as a beginner, just kind of wait things out here, wait for things to spawn, and then I'll explain catching as we go. So that Weedle I don't want to catch because that was before the lure popped. That other one I can catch. I can catch that one. Okay, so we're going to start with these. So here's the first catch of the game. Again, kind of going off the motion control stuff I talked about earlier. Caterpies and Weedles, they don't move around. Same with Bellsprout, they don't go side to side. A lot of the early game catches don't do that, so all I'm going to do is just straight down motion. And if you're a beginner, the other thing I suggest is always just waiting for things to attack. So I'm going to razz this actually because bug controller catches are a little less reliable. Wait, it attacks. So I'm going to throw it and get the excellent. It's kind of hard to explain like which circle size corresponds to which level of catch. You just want to get the best one possible as much as possible. You don't need all your catches to go perfectly in order to get the levels you need, but it does make things a lot easier. So I mentioned earlier that you can also 2-player catch things, and you're going to do this a lot in the run because it is, 1, it gives you a lot more experience to 2-player catch things, and then 2, it gives you more experience as well, so that you're going to get it more often, they're going to give you more experience, and you're just going to be a much happier person. So I'm going to do this. All you do is you just shake the second Joy-Con when it's on and it summons the second player. You do that in battle or outside. And the same thing, just wait for it to attack and then throw it whenever I have a comfortable excellent. If you don't get it right away, usually after attack, you still have like a whole extra cycle before they attack. They can attack again, so don't be afraid to like wait it out a little bit. And again, yeah, I'm definitely explaining. There's a lot to explain early on, but we'll dive into other stuff as we get out of this catch heavy section. So Pikachu is a rare catch here. It's like a 5%. You can definitely catch it. No reason not to. You can catch it before or after the lure if you want. Again, I'm just going to wait for it to attack. That one is a kind of specific cycle that I just know about from game knowledge, where you can throw it out of the attack if it starts attacking at a certain point. But again, what you can just do is just wait. Wait until that circle is at a comfortable point, and you can just throw it then. So this will give us 2 evolutions for both Metapod and Kakuna. So I should also be tracking my Pokemon catches as we go here so I don't forget. We use a tracking program that another community member, Etiquette, made. It's very useful. So you're also noticing that level ups and evolutions in this game are not super fast. Each one of these evolutions takes a good chunk of time. Catching things takes a good chunk of time. And level ups happen one at a time. So what that means is if I do a catch and my Pikachu gains 20 levels, I have to master 20 individual level ups. Each one takes like 2 seconds. So a lot of the catch routing stuff for this game revolves around managing your evolutions, your catches, and your experience such that you don't waste too much time on any one specific thing, right? And again, don't worry about that too much as a beginner. The most important thing is you hit the 50 Pokemon requirement. That's more like what you kind of learn as you do more and more runs, is how to kind of balance that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm not going to get a Bellsprout here, I don't think. We'll get one on Route 2 so I can show that. Oh, there's a glowing one there. So Pokemon can glow. Wild Pokemon. If you caught the Bellsprout below me, it's glowing blue. That means it's tiny sized. If they're glowing red, that means they're huge. So they just have different like height, weight, basically. And if they are glowing at all, they give you an experience modifier. And sometimes they can be like super tiny or super huge. You have no way of telling until you actually catch them. And if that's the case, they give you like an additional like 3x multiplier on top of that. It's pretty rare, but that amount of experience is really, really good. I think I will catch this one just because it is glowing. So again, summon my second player. I'm going to wait for it to attack. Sometimes it takes a while. That was a very safe cycle. Just waited for it and got it, no problem. I might get close to both the bug evolutions fully done at this point. We'll see. Yeah, they're pretty close. I might get Butterfree before I enter Mount Moon. So yeah, there's Double Kick. This is, again, the big level threshold I needed. The notes tell you where to put the move. You can just follow along with the notes. They will give you everything you need. And then some. So don't worry too much about that specific stuff. Yeah, mashing through all those level ups. The nice thing with this game too is that there's really not that much mashing compared to a lot of other Pokemon games because there are no cutscenes. There's very few cutscenes in this game where you have to like mash dialogue for like a minute or 2 minutes or whatever. Given that it is a Gen 1 remake, they cut it up. There's not that much fluff compared to a lot of recent Pokemon games.
Not a lot of story in Gen 1.
Yeah. Yep. They did add a few cutscenes. Most of them are kind of nonsense, but they're still not that bad compared to a lot of other games. This is our rival. Again, I kind of skipped a lot of the intro stuff because it's not super important, but we're going to fight him a few times in the run. And now we're going to go do Brock's gym. The lore just ran out there. That's the text box that just popped up. Again, not going to describe the movement. You can just kind of follow along with that if you want to. Study that on your own. The movement in this game is really chill compared to like Gen 4 Pokemon or whatever. So I'm going to show him my Grass-type Pokemon, the Bellsprout. Again, you cannot enter here without one. You either need Bulbasaur or Bellsprout. If I saw Bulbasaur there, I definitely would have caught it. It's a very rare spawn, but it's a pretty good one to get. And then I'm going to do this fight. Not too much to describe here as well. Brock is pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just spam Double Kick, basically. On Onix, you lead with a Tail Whip to lower its defense, so you can actually kill it efficiently. Very lucky that this game gives both Eevee and Pikachu Double Kick, specifically so you have a chance to beat Brock. Although in Pika version, we just use Oddish on this fight because it's much faster. And yeah, this is... So, I'm going to take a break from explaining to the rest of everyone's brain. This is... I'm just going to gush about the game for a second. This is one of my favorite speedruns ever. It's just so unique and so different from every other speedrun. Again, it's more similar to a randomizer than an actual speedrun. Super low skill floor and super high skill ceiling. I feel like I'm still improving at the run every single time I do it, even though I've been doing this for like, again, almost 3 years. I get new and exciting situations that I have to think through every single run. Highly, highly recommend this. And if there's other Pokemon games you want to learn, this is still also a fantastic jumping point. There are, one, it's on the Switch, so it's super easy to capture compared to like a Nintendo DS, which you need like specific capture hardware for. And two, it's just really, really easy to learn. And it's one of the shortest Switch speedruns as well. So coming up now, we're gonna get some free Great Balls. Because we have defeated the first gym leader, we have now unlocked Great Balls. And again, for those who don't know like Pokemon stuff, there's Pokeballs, Great Balls, Ultra Balls that you're gonna see on the run. Each one is better at catching Pokemon than the last one. As I said before, you have two controllers. The balls on both controllers actually matters. So early on, I actually am just going to use one Great Ball, one Pokeball. on each controller because I don't need 2 Great Balls, but later on I'll be double Great Balling a lot of things. So just kind of explaining some notation in the notes too. So if I go to Pokeball, if I go down then left, it'll immediately give me 45, and that's what I'm trying to sell, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to buy a bunch of stuff. Again, just kind of following the notations in the notes. It says to go down 1. I go right to 11 and then down to 9. And we're going to get some X items here. So X items are very, very powerful items, especially in this game. I'll explain why in a second. I buy a lot of extra healing items, healing status items in the beginner route, because just to bail you out of bad situations, which are going to happen a lot. Buy all those. X items will basically increase your stat, will effectively double your stats if you use one, and then it kind of keeps increasing by like an additive 100% for each extra one you use. So it's basically like stages. It can go up to 6 stages. Each one increases your stat stage by 2. So just using one X item is super, super powerful, and you're going to see us use them a lot later in the run. And in this game, they kept that. So Gen 7 actually introduced the change with X items where they became 2-stage boosting instead of 1 stage. And they made them really expensive to kind of like compensate it. But because they just use the Kanto pricing in this game, they're really cheap and really good. So we don't buy a lot now because we have to actually buy a lot of other things specifically to catch all the Pokemon you need to catch, but they are very, very powerful later on. Here we buy a Magikarp because it's $500, which is nothing, and then it's a free Pokemon for our Pokedex, which is really, really nice. And that gets us closer to our goal of 50 Pokemon for Koga, and is also faster than any individual catch. Like me going in and out of there and buying that is faster than a normal catch. So because this is a Yellow remake, you're going to see Jesse and James a lot. They are sometimes incredibly scary, but early on they're not too bad. But their mid-game fights are horrifying, and some of the worst fights in the run. Okay, so I'm going to do a menu here. If I saw an Ekans on the last route, I definitely would have caught it. Didn't see any. Not a big deal. So I'm going to go to my bag. I'm going to go to the box. You can access your Pokemon box at any time in the run. I'm going to deposit, let's see, just these for now. I'm going to move you to slot 2 already, because we're going to do double battle later with Bellsprout and Eevee. And I want to keep these 2 because they're going to evolve soon. I don't want to keep Pikachu and Magikarp. Pikachu I don't want to keep because it can't evolve. I'm not going to get a Thunderstone anywhere anyway. Magikarp takes 15 levels to evolve, and also has a slower EXP curve, so you're never going to evolve it. Again, you have to mash through every single individual level up. It has to take up valuable party space the entire run, not worth it. I'm also going to teach that Headbutt we got from Brock. Headbutt is a 70 power move, really, really powerful on Eevee because it is also a normal type Pokemon, so it gets an additional 50% damage boost. And then we're going to pop that Lure. And we're going to go. Oh. Not going to go there again. We're going to go fight. These fights are mostly just going to be Headbutt spam until I leave Mount Moon, so not too much to talk about with them as well, so I can talk more about the catching side of things as we go through here, which is, again, another hugely important catching section and kind of a big gauntlet because, as I mentioned before, Misty has a gym requirement like Koga does, but her gym requirement is level 15 on any Pokemon. So your experience is super, super important. You want to make sure your catches go decently well in this section, otherwise you could end up losing a lot of time to having to do backup strats to get that extra level. So that'll give us Butterfree. We are now currently at 9 Pokemon total, 41 to go. We're going to get there, I promise. It seems like a lot of Pokemon. It's not too bad. There's a lot. This run kind of alternates between a lot of fights and then a lot of catching and then a lot of fights and a lot of catching. So it ends up being pretty well balanced. So the lure is active now. I'm going to be looking for primarily a Clefairy, a Paris, and a Geodude. Geodude is a Pokemon you can catch later, and it's actually better to catch it later in the sense that if I catch it in Rock Tunnel, it comes at level 24. I can level it up one time and it immediately becomes a Graveler, so that's like 2 for the price of run. I'm going to catch that. However, catching it early will give me the ability to just get more experience now, and it also like, gives me the option to catch Graveler later, which gives me way more experience in mid-game, so it's pretty much always best to just catch Geodude. So I'm pausing here for a specific reason. Geodude has a really weird catch cycle, and again, generally I say you should always just like wait for things to attack and then throw. Geodude's kind of an exception to that because of the way it kind of moves around in a weird circle. There's a very specific way I throw it, and it's based on when it attacks, and I can't explain it while it happens, but there's 2 cycles you can get here. One is a good one is a bad one. If you get the good one, and I'll say if it's a good one or a bad one. If you get the good one, all you do is, what's gonna happen is Geodude's gonna do like a punch, gonna punch into the webcam, and then he's gonna like kind of pull his arm back and then like do kind of like a rest thing. As his arm is like basically back to normal position, that's when you throw, and you should get an excellent for free. If you get the bad cycle, it's a lot harder to get the excellent, and if you just try to go for it normally, you might end up missing the circle. I would recommend just going for like the great instead. So we're gonna try it. Okay, so that's a bad cycle. It's because I was waiting for that long. So I'm gonna show. Yeah, so that's what happens when you get the bad cycle. You can't really attack. If you try to go for the excellent, you're probably gonna miss. It's really, really tight. Fortunately, this was glowing, so even though I didn't get the catch modifier, I should get a decent amount of experience still. Yeah, 176 is decent. Now, the reason I'm catching Bellsprout here is, or keeping Bellsprout, is because, one, having a second Pokemon at all times in your party really helps with the consistency. Because now I never have to worry about doing 1 controller catches, which are so much less reliable than 2 controller catches until like I get to the serving portion of the run, which is specifically 1 controller only. And just having that second Pokemon will give you more experience in general. It also will keep leveling up until it becomes a Leaping Bell, which is an additional Pokemon. Even though it's a lot of levels, it just helps so much with your consistency that I think there's no reason not to do it as a beginner. You can move your second player around freely, by the way. They can't trigger like Pokemon battles or trainer battles, but you want to have them move with you if you're going to keep them out. Otherwise, they like teleport away to you if you like move too far from them. So we're going to go down here for a Moonstone and a Nugget. Moonstone, not as important in Eevee version, way more important in Pikachu version. Sometimes you can skip this ladder, but I wouldn't recommend it. That is very good. So here comes kind of a weird situation where I could party manage now, and I think I will. Because I already have these bugs done, and Geodude will level up and learn moves if I catch either of these things. So I'm going to get the Glowing Paris first, because it has a chance to be supersized, and if it is supersized, it'll give me way too much experience on the Clefairy. I'm just going to throw it. Again, you should wait for it. Always, for Paris especially, you should just wait for it. But sometimes I'm going to YOLO throw and just kind of show that as well. A lot of catches you are able to, if you mash fast enough, you just throw it immediately and get an excellent. The downside is if they attack, then you lose out on first ball bonus, which is another catch experience modifier. If like your first throw whiffs or doesn't catch them, you lose 50% experience off the bat, which is kind of a lot.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, and experience is just so important early on too. So here I'm going to wait. Clefairy likes to jump around, so I can show some side throws. I'm just going to wait. And yeah, side throws are so much harder than like the normal throws. Definitely practice those until you get the feel for it. And even if you practice them again, they're only like 99% reliable. Sometimes you get motion controlled by the game. It happens. But it's not the end of the world. So that's level 14. I am going to hit level 15 very easily. Typically, as long as you are like at least level 14 here, you should be level 15 in time by the time you leave here. And you could always catch something on the route afterwards if you need to. Oops. Really quickly, I need to check one thing. I just totally forgot about this. Okay, we're good. So system time actually does matter in this game for a reason I'll explain later. And I just wanted to make sure that I didn't screw it up. But we're fine. So I started this file like a few minutes in. Again, these next couple fights are literally just spam headbutt. The nice thing with Eevee and why I decided to show it is that Eevee gets a lot of really busted super effective or like different type moves. Well, it's unfortunate I got the poison, but not the end of the world. I'm gonna quick attack here just to save a headbutt. I'm gonna have to heal this poison immediately, but I did buy plenty of antidotes, so not a big deal. I could deposit while I do that menu as well. I think I will, because the only reason I wouldn't deposit here is if I want to bank on getting Ekans later, but that's not super likely, and if I do get Ekans later, I can always just keep it for a while because it won't gain that many levels. So yeah, a lot of the catch routing stuff is you want to try to minimize the amount of times you enter the bag because it is really slow. So just for reference, if you want to deposit a single Pokemon from like the party menu, that takes approximately 6 to 7 seconds, depending on how fast you mash and if you know where the Pokemon is, basically. If you want to deposit more Pokemon, it's a little bit more for each one you want to deposit. So you never want to just deposit everything all the time because you're just going to lose a lot of time. You want to kind of combine deposits as much as possible, and you want to enter the bag as little as possible. So as often as you can combine things, always a good idea. Like I did there, I needed to heal the poison no matter what before this next fight, otherwise it was going to lose me more time. So I might as well deposit there because I already have the bag open. This Eevee, I don't think has very good attack, so I don't think I'm going to one-shot anything. Oh, I spoke too soon. Wait, no, yeah, that's not bad for a level 14 Eevee. I've been playing a lot of Pika recently, so I don't really remember all the Eevee-specific like damage ranges. The other big thing with my beginner notes too, now that we're talking about, since I mentioned the word ranges, is I took all the math out of them. Pokemon notes are notorious for being filled with numbers.
Yes.
And I removed basically all of them. These are true beginner notes. The point of these notes is the fights are going to be very consistent and basically the same every time, even if they're a little bit slower or safer. The point of them is to give you the opportunity to just focus purely on the catching side, because that is the most important thing. I can get like a top 5, top 7 run probably if I follow the beginner notes and do the beginner fights totally fine because of how good I am at the catching side. And like that's kind of the point I want to make with these, is like you don't need to do the riskiest or the most optimal fights. You don't need to know every single damage calculation. If you're really good at the catches and really good at the catch routing, then that barely matters. I've had a lot of Pikachu runs recently where I was on really good like world record paces, and like I was getting horrible fights. Like I was just missing ranges here and there. When I say range, I mean like missing one-shots and like just like dying all over the place, and it was still a good run because my catches were just really good. So here I'm going to use an X attack, which I bought earlier. The reason I'm buying the X attack for the beginner route here is just to make this fight ultra consistent. Otherwise, if you're not level 15 here, you're going to potentially lose time and get destroyed by this Magnemite. It has Supersonic and can paralyze you. Never a good time. So with the X attack, we always win here, even if we're under-leveled. And we crit anyway. Cool. And we're coming up on the first double battle here. First forced double battle. You cannot do this fight if you don't have 2 Pokemon in your party, so make sure you keep that Bellsprout. Doesn't matter which fossil you take here, you're just going to sell it later. Sorry, Helix. And the way double battles will typically work in the run is, remember the X items we talked about earlier? They're really good, increase your stats a lot. You can use the second Pokemon to juice up your first Pokemon with X items, and then you just one-shot everything. That's going to be the basic strat. Now, sometimes there are double battles where you don't control your second partner, and it is a nightmare, and we'll talk about that later too. So you always want to target Ekans here first. Coughing is more annoying, but is harder to kill. With the more advanced notes, if you know your attack and do math, you can go for coughing first. But again, these are math-free notes. These are beginner-friendly as possible. So I'm gonna headbutt here. I'm gonna use Acid because it is the best move I can use here, and that'll kill. Cool. Now this fight can take 1 or even like 2 extra turns if you get really unlucky, or you're just really underleveled. If that happens, not the end of the world. Just keep powering through it. But yeah, we got our catches done. No problem here. I didn't see any of the rare catches. There are things like Clefable, Chansey, Onyx here. I wouldn't really recommend catching those if you're a beginner unless you need the experience. Because like you won't hit level 15 or your other catches are really bad. You can catch Zubat there. If it runs into you, I would just catch it generally. The reason you don't typically want to catch Zubat there is because you can get a gold, or you can get a higher level Zubat later, which can actually evolve into Golbat. Here, the Zubat would take like 10 levels to evolve, and you don't really want to do that. Because again, you have to mash for every single level up. So I am level 15 here. If I wasn't level 15, what I would do is I would wait here or catch things. You see a Spearow and an Ekans just spawn. Ekans is perfect in this situation because I haven't caught one yet, so that's cool. But let's say an Ekans didn't spawn and it was only like a Spearow. Spearow is not ideal to catch because, again, you want to catch the higher level Spearow later because then it only takes a single level up to become a Fearow, and that's really time efficient for hitting your 50 poke requirement. And if I catch the Spearow now, I can't really justify catching a Fearow later because it's a really bad catch. Same thing with the Zubat thing. Golbat is really hard to catch. Fearow is really hard to catch. You don't want to deal with that. So if I catch Spearow, I'm basically cutting out Fearow from my catch route entirely. So I'm just going to go for the seconds here, just kind of show it. I'm just going to do the one controller catch because these are really easy to catch. That's a YOLO throw timing thing. You don't have to worry about it. Ekans generally should just always wait because it likes to attack aggressively like that. And then you kind of throw it out of the attack or just wait for it. Either one is fine. So I grabbed that PP up earlier. We're going to sell that later. We're not going to actually use it. There's extra Great Balls you can pick up here. Definitely recommend that if you're starting out. And so the other thing to mention too is that if you're not level 15 still after like catching things, let's say you just had a horrible Mount Moon and you're just like barely level 14 right now, you don't have to fight Misty yet. You can actually do this out of sequence. You can go straight up to Nugget Bridge and then do that whole section first before you fight Misty, and then you'll get level 15 off of that, and then you can go fight Misty. It's not a big deal. It's a little bit slower, but it doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things for beginners. Right now I'm learning 3 busted different type moves, which I'll talk about when we start using them later. Getting a water move, a fire move, and an electric move. So my coverage as this Eevee is really good. Each of the special moves corresponds to like an evolution. So like Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon here. And we're going to learn Glitzy Glow later, which is a psychic type move and really, really useful for mid-game. But yeah, I'm going to show the Nugget Bridge section. So let's pretend I'm level 14 here, because this is the more common scenario when you're starting out. I'm just going to run away, come back to fight Misty later, and just do these fights. So you do the rival battle here. You basically, whenever you're in doubt in this entire section, you just always do the super effective move, and it's probably correct. So that is what we're going to be doing here. Also, I've been like doing a bad job of looking at like chat for questions because I've been trying to read my notes and executing the beginner notes correctly because I'm just so used to not doing beginner strat stuff. But I'll do my best to keep an eye out if people have questions.
I've been.
Or if you have questions, yeah, feel free to bring them up to Church. Yeah.
I've been keeping an eye on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, feel free to forward those along as much as possible.
So I go ahead if you got something.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you keep mentioning that there are some version differences. Specifically here at the like the move tutor, would you be getting different moves on Pikachu, or is it the same?
Yeah,
one?
so Pikachu only gets one special move for the entire run, basically.
Okay.
He gets a move called Zippy Zap, which is a 50 power move, which isn't that strong. It's a physical electric move. And it has 2 funny side effects, though. One is that it always crits, which is pretty strong. And then 2 is that it is basically quick attack, so it always goes first, or typically goes first. There's some exceptions. But it's a really good move, and we use that a lot. And then you kind of end up just using Thunderbolt more as a result, because it's a much more powerful move.
Okay.
Whereas Eevee here, I can explain these moves. So again, always just going to use a super effective move. Sizzly Slide is a 90 power fire move that always burns your opponent. All of them are perfect accuracy, 100 accuracy. Not like, if I get Sand Attack, I still have a chance to miss, but they're 100 accuracy. Bouncy Bubble is a 90 power move. and has the side effect that it actually heals you back part of the damage that you do to your opponent. So it actually works out really nicely here. I don't have to heal my Eevee at all. I just naturally heal it back through using Bouncy Bubble a few times. And then the last special move we learned was Buzzy Buzz. So Bouncy Bubble is a special move. Buzzy Buzz is a special move. Sizzly Slide is a physical move. So physical means it's based on your attack. Special move means it's based on your special attack. Buzzy Buzz is 90 power electric type and has the side effect that it always paralyzes your opponent. So we take advantage of both the paralysis and the burn moves quite a lot for that side effect, because if you paralyze your opponent, they will always be like slower than you, so you can take advantage of that to get a free hit off. If you burn your opponent, they do way less physical damage to you, and the advanced strat actually takes pretty big advantage of that. I'm not going to be showing that strat off in this run because it's, again, involves math and is also kind of risky, so I'm just not going to show that, but that is one of the big ways we use it. We still burn other things in the run for the purpose of reducing damage, but the really cool strat, I'm not going to show it, but I'll talk about it. This Meowth has Fake Out, so even if I did have like a priority move here, it could still Fake me out. Fake Out just flinches you, so you just have to use the move again. So I'm going to Sizzly Slide here, or I was supposed to Buzzy Buzz, or I was supposed to Sizzly Slide, but I ended up using Buzzy Buzz. It doesn't actually matter. You have plenty of PP on everything besides Headbutt here, so not a big deal. I kept Ekans here. You don't actually have to keep Ekans. My notes say just to deposit it because it's simpler, but you can keep it here if it's your only Pokemon because it won't gain that many levels. And again, kind of thinking about the 6 to 7 seconds to deposit it. If it only gains like 3 levels, that's less than 6 seconds or right at 6 seconds, so it's not super important. If it gains 2 levels, then it's better to just combine the menu with the menu that's going to come up later. I just deposit it then, which is what I'm going to do. And now we're back at full HP, which is nice. Yeah, I would say Eevee is absolutely better for beginners. I'll talk more about version differences now too, because this is a good time. This is like the biggest kind of just fight things section in the run, so it's a good time to explain this stuff. And again, I'm not going to detail the fights too much because if you just read the notes, you just do what they say. It's nothing complicated. Very, very simple stuff. None of the fights are super complex, and there's no math involved in any of these. So the Eevee route is a lot more straightforward because you just end up relying on Eevee to kind of solo a lot of things in mid-game. It is rougher in the sense that you are less likely to get a runnable Eevee. I didn't talk about starter natures or starter stats at all. I'll talk about that later too. You're less likely to get a runnable Eevee than a runnable Pikachu, which kind of stinks. So you're just going to be resetting at the very start of the game more often. But the route is much more straightforward than Pikachu version. Pikachu is a much more consistent run and a much it's a lot easier to go fast with Pikachu. Oh, I didn't want to show that movement. Sorry, that was the advanced movement. let me do the normal movement. So I'm just gonna wait here. Well, now I did both versions, so that's that fancy movement is. Oh, also another thing here is these trainers don't have like full vision. You don't have to go all the way out here. If you look at this grass patch here, I just kind of go above and below it, and they can't see me. I was not supposed to grab that ether. I think that's a Pikachu moment. I will just throw it away later, I think. I'll just sell it later. It'll be fine. Items matter a lot in this run in terms of like it picking up extra or using extras because they will mess up your inventory placement, which is not a good thing. Inventory management is another key thing in the run, but hasn't really come up yet. Yeah, right now Pikachu is a faster run. Eevee might have a better top end or a similar top end, but because of just how much less consistent of a run it is and how much harder it is to get everything to line up compared to Pikachu, it's the top times are a little bit slower. But that doesn't matter too much if you're a beginner. They're separate categories on speedrun.com, so you're not competing against the different versions, and they're both very fun runs in their own way. I prefer Pikachu, but it's also a lot to explain some of the mid-game stuff, because basically what you're doing is like you're not just using Pikachu, because Pikachu only having the electric moves gives it a lot of like lack of coverage. So you end up using like a Growlithe in parts of the run to have a super effective move against a Gloom, and also have an option to deal with a Sandshrew. You sometimes use a Kadabra instead, just to have an extra special attacker that's a heavy hitter. You will rely a lot on Nidoking or Nidoqueen to get through some of the double battles, or just some of the individual battles as well. And all that stuff makes it quite a bit more complicated to explain the fights. Like, my notes on the fights are much... They branch out a lot more in Pika version, but the beginner version has them pretty simplified. So if you do already own Pikachu version, or you just prefer Pikachu, because Pikachu is better than Eevee, or just also makes better noises than Eevee, then that's totally fair and totally fine. You'll be okay either way. I believe in you. Okay, so we did Bill. Again, like I said, normally you do Misty first. Misty first is faster, but I wanted to show the reverse order, so I'm going to go fight Misty now. Because this is the scenario that's going to happen more often than not when you're starting out. And again, it's not the end of the world. There was a Meowth in that grass on the second pass here. If I saw it in the first pass, I would have caught it. Meowth is a good bonus catch. Same with Venonat, but Venonat's a little bit scarier. It's more likely to break out. But both are totally fine with 2 controller catches. The one downside of doing Misty second too is that, again, showing your level 15 Pokemon, is that I was at full health and now I'm not going to be at full health at the end of this fight. But at least I don't have to heal going into Misty, but I am going to have to heal in the next menu to make up for that. Hopefully the extra levels let me one-shot this trainer. This Goldeen has Supersonic and it's kind of annoying, so Pikachu version doesn't have to worry about it because it just one-shots it, but not always the case with Eevee here. Nice. Yeah, I think that this Eevee has good special attack. There's a thing in this game called Awakening Values, which is different from... we just call it AVs. They're different from EVs in older games, or effort values. Basically, every time you level up, you get a random stat point in one of your stats. And sometimes if they all just go into really good stats, like your attacking stats, then you can save a lot of time. But usually they don't. So we know now how they end up, how like the odds are distributed, but I'm not going to go into detail about it because it's not super important. So you're going to use the next special attack here. And we're going to take advantage of the Buzzy Buzz paralysis like we mentioned before. So we can't... Oh, that's not Buzzy Buzz. Lizburn. So Buzzy Buzz, like I said, will always paralyze the opponent. This Starmie will always outspeed us, but by paralyzing it, that means we will outspeed it the second turn since paralysis halves the opponent's speed. So we'll always be able to get 2 hits off for free. Or just one shot, because I'm level 17, that makes sense. Never mind. Yeah, I'm high level, and this is definitely a good special attacking Eevee, despite being a neutral nature. So that's neat. I don't think that was guaranteed, though, but I don't remember the math. So I didn't get to show that off, but that's how it would typically go. You just Buzzy Buzz again, and it'll be fine. If you get burned by Scald, it's annoying and kind of dangerous, which is why you typically want to be near full HP going into Misty. But if you're not, you can always just heal beforehand. So yeah, now we're done with Cerulean. And you might be thinking, okay, cool, we go to Vermilion, we go fight Surge, then we go to Celadon, then we go fight Erica. No, we're not doing another gym leader for another 2 hours. Or hour and a half. We're done with that. We are going to focus on 2 things for the next hour and a half. We are going to focus on for advancing the story as much as possible to unlock as much as Kanto as possible, as fast as possible, and also just progressing on our 50 poke requirement. So the way this works compared to older Pokemon games, you may be thinking like, how am I going to cut the bush on the way to Rock Tunnel if I haven't fought Surge? That's because there are no HMs in this game. HMs are replaced with secret techniques, kind of similar to a lot of recent Pokemon games where they just eliminate HMs being the terrible thing that they are. So secret techniques you can just kind of use at any time from your partner Pokemon. You don't have to learn a move for them. And more importantly, because they are not HMs, they do not have gym badge requirements. So once I learned the chop down technique, which is the equivalent of HM cut, I do not have to fight Surge. I just know how to cut things now. So I can just go straight to Rock Tunnel as soon as I unlock that. And that is basically what we're going to do. is I'm just going to keep progressing the game as much as possible, specifically to the point where I get Surf, because when I get Surf, all of Kanto's open to me, and I can then get my new main that I'm going to use for the rest of the run, and also start beating up the gym leaders. There are Pokemon on this route. You typically never want to go jump those ledges, because one, they're not lured catches, so they're going to be lower leveled, which means you get less experience. And two, sometimes things just don't spawn, so you just lose time for doing that. This is one of the longer cutscenes in the game. But after this cutscene, we're going to go through the underground to get to Vermilion. There's a nugget and a lure we're going to pick up in the underground. We're going to use that lure on the way into the next route, and we're going to do some more catching again. Finally, it's been so long. Looking at my catch situation now. I forgot to mark Beedrill. I do have that now. Did not mark Ekans. I'm going to deposit that Ekans now. Like I said, it was definitely the right call to just keep it this whole time, because I'm going to have to menu here always because you need to use the lure. So if you're ever in doubt of whether you should deposit a Pokemon in Cerulean, you can always just wait and it's fine because there's this menu. Typically, I would, again, like if a level up takes like almost 2 seconds and depositing a Pokemon takes like 6 to 7 seconds, if you're going to do like 4 levels up, 3 or 4 level ups, you should probably just deposit across like multiple Pokemon. So that's the lure. I'm going to go all the way up the stairs here, and then before I enter the next route, I'm going to use it. Important thing too is there's a lot of Pokemon I could catch here. There's a Pidgey I could catch. It's more optimal to catch it later, but it's totally fine to catch it here. I'm going to catch it here if I see it. Jigglypuff is great to catch. And then Vulpix, also great. I can Firestone it to a Ninetales later. Jigglypuff, I can Moonstone it. It's the best link to Moonstone. And then sometimes you get a really rare Abra. And that's really awesome because it's 2 free Pokemon because it evolves quickly into Kadabra. Pidgeotto, you basically never want to catch. Psyduck is always better to catch later unless you need the experience. Rattata is typically bad to catch here because you can get better ones later. But Rattata here is level 17, takes several levels to evolve. Whereas, oh shoot. I wanted to explain Jigglypuff. So Jigglypuff has another kind of, you know, I said earlier you should always wait for them to attack. You should never wait for them to attack on Jigglypuff. Very specific cycle. You just always throw it immediately. Always. Because the worst case scenario is they attack and then you just throw it when the circle closes down again. Because typically what Jigglypuff likes to do is start floating away. And once it floats away, you're going to lose a lot of time. So just be prepared for that. I got really lucky there that Jigglypuff decided to not do anything on that first cycle, but it is very heavily favored to start flying away. So just always YOLO throw it. And if it doesn't work out, you just throw it again. And again, I mentioned earlier, like using 2 Great Balls instead of a Great Ball and a Pokeball is better for your catch rate, but I am not going to do that yet. This is the last route I'm going to double, or I'm not going to do that though. So I'd like to see more here. Oh, awesome. Oh no, it despawned. That's so sad, it took too long. That can happen. But fortunately my experience here will be fine, especially because I got this Pidgey. Pidgey is kind of an interesting catch scenario thing, so I have several options for what I can do with Pidgey here. Again, there's Pidgey, Pidgeotto, and Pidgeot for 3 different Pokemon. Pidgey will take 1 level right now to evolve into Pidgeotto, but it takes another like 20 levels or whatever to evolve into Pidgeot, so you never want to do that. So the options I have here are, 1, evolve this Pidgey into Pidgeotto and then just say goodbye to Pidgeot, just we're not going to catch it. And that's the usual thing you want to do here, and totally fine. Oh, this is I'm going to grab that Vulpix. I'm going to grab this Vulpix. And then I need to talk about the trainer skip, but the other scenario is I box this Pidgey on the next available menu before it evolves. And then what I do is I catch a Pidgeotto later that's high level. Not the Pidgeottos here because it's only level 17. I want to catch the ones on like Route 17. I catch that and then I can evolve it in 1 level to Pidgeot and then I get all 3. The third option is if I don't catch this Pidgey, is I just catch the high level Pidgeys on Route 17, which may or may not spawn. And then I just level it up twice to get it to Pidgeotto and then Pidgeot. This is a very hard trainer pass in the game. If you walk perfectly between these two trainers, they will not fight you. If you kind of look at it, it's kind of hard to tell, but the way the road is aligned is you actually have a little bit more room on the left than you think you do compared to like the right side. So the way I line myself up, the visual cue I use is this like little 3 sets of leaves popping out under my feet right here. I kind of line up with that and then just go straight down and then run like that. And then on the way up later, you kind of just line up between these, like in the middle of these tiles. And as long as you stay straight, you should be able to get the pass. Okay, so shopping really quickly. Gonna sell all those nuggets we got. I'm gonna sell the Helix fossil. I'm gonna sell that PP up. This is a much bigger shop than the last one because we're gonna get a ton of great balls, a ton of healing items. We're gonna get lures, escape ropes, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna go do that. Sewer potions heal 700 instead of 20, or 70 instead of 20. So they are very, very useful. I'm gonna get 11 X attacks. So we're gonna pump our attack quite a bit. Gonna get 11 lures, so now I can just kind of spam lures as much as I want to maximize my experience and spawns. Repel is useful more for like bailout situations. So what you would do is you use a repel and then a lure immediately after, and it just despawns everything and then resets your route, because routes have like a max amount of spawns they can have, not that. Gonna go get 14 of those, and I'm gonna get 1 guard spec. Guard spec is another X item that basically prevents you from having your stats lowered for 5 turns. There's only one place where that matters, so I'm just gonna buy 1. And then we're gonna do SSN. You do want to try to be at least level 18 going into this fight, which is why like catching Pidgey early is totally fine, and definitely do that if you're worried. The higher level, the better, because you can potentially get outsped by the Pidgeotto if you are just barely the right level. And it does have sand attack, so you can get trolled. Little movement trick here is sometimes if you enter this cutscene at the right angle, you cut out some turn animations. Doesn't really matter, but I figured I'd mention it. It's also really hard to do. I can't really do it consistently. And then this next fight is going to show something we haven't really done yet, which is a 2 versus 1 battle. So I did a double battle earlier in Mount Moon with Jesse and James, where I just controlled both 2 Pokemon that I was using. But you can actually 2v1 any trainer in the game pretty much, except for like double battles where you're not allowed to do that in like if you're given a partner. And you might be wondering, like, why don't you just do this for every battle? It seems really, really good. And the answer is because it's slow a lot of the time. It's only worth it if it saves like overall time versus the 1 controller fight. And because 1 controller just has less menuing involved with it, typically it's faster to 1 controller things if you can do it. But in this case, hard to do that, so we're just going to 2 controller it always. I'm going to start with the Buzzy Buzz here. Again, just kind of using the super effective moves. Going to use an X special because that bumps up the power. And looking at my notes too, I was supposed to sell the ether. I can get rid of that later. My notes have specific inputs you can do in battle for how to get to each item. So it says left for guard spec. So that means if I open the bag and press left, I will always be at guard spec. And then if I go up when I open in the bag, I should always get an X special attack. You can use that to kind of have the minimum amount of inputs to get to the items you need in battle, which is why inventory management does actually matter. You can't just pick up every item that you want, even though it is really appealing to just see that Pokeball on the ground and be like, ooh, I kind of want that. Just resist, stay strong. Got to throw an X attack here because Sizzly Slide is a physical move. So is Headbutt, so we're going to Headbutt the Pikachu. I think I'm just going to use that Ether. Again, normally you don't pick up that Ether. That's just the Pikachu thing that I did, and I want to get rid of it to show what the correct menus look like. So I can just use that on Headbutt, I guess. I should have just sold it, but I didn't think about it. I think Wild Pidgeot can spawn in post-game, like high in the sky, but there's nothing in the route for that. Nothing along the way, at least. Yeah, I think it's only post game.
For anybody asking, I've posted the links in chat, and if you're on YouTube watching right now, you can check the description below and see the links there.
Yeah, definitely feel free to follow along while I'm doing this too, because things will probably make more sense. Like I said, I'm not really explaining the battles too much because they are very straightforward if you just kind of follow the notes, and they are so much simpler than every other Pokemon game's notes because the fights are just a lot easier because one, the game just kind of simplifies a lot of things. I didn't mention this before, but there are no held items and no abilities in this game. It is a very faithful kind of Gen 1 remake in that sense, which is really great for us because it makes the fights not miserable. Like, imagine if all the Onyxes had Sturdy or something, everything would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So it works out pretty well for us that is the case. It makes the run just faster paced too, which is nice. And also means you die less, which is great. And it also turns out when you can 2v1 trainers, you just don't die that often. So... And the other thing, too, that's great is if you do die, it's not that bad in this game. You're going to see, like, I'm not safety saving anywhere because you get free revives from that cutscene I did earlier with my rival going into the underground tunnel. And other than that, as long as you follow the notes, it's really hard to die. And if you do die, you just pop one of the revives and you're good. And you can always buy more if you're worried later. This is one of the safest Pokemon speedruns in terms of just, like, the fights. Thanks to just how consistent they are and the lack of abilities, especially. Held items would be pretty sick, but it is what we'll get those in Pokemon Let's Go Johto whenever that happens. So yeah, like I said, we got the chop down technique, which is effectively the HM cut. And because this is a really cool modern game, we don't have to fight the gym leader to actually use it. We can just use it. So we're going to fight Surge, let's see, about an hour from now? A little over an hour from now. Also, when did you want to take the break? We can do it pretty soon here.
Yeah, whatever was good for you.
Yeah, we might as well just do it now before I get into another catch-heavy section here.
Yeah, we can do that for sure right now.
Cool.
So, we are going to take a quick little break, everybody, just so everybody can, get some water, stretch, anything they need to do. We do these about every hour on the Hotfix, so we'll be back in a few minutes with more Pokemon. Just before we go to the break, though, I just want to give a quick reminder that we do have an Instagram account. It's @GamesDoneQuick. You can go there and take a look to get bite-sized clips from our Hotfix shows and see what's happening at our events. Also, your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, and bits cheered on the GDQ Twitch channel do help support this weekly content. So if you like the first step, if you like the tutorial show, if you like any of the other shows, it really does help support these shows and help us keep making them. With that said, we'll be back in a few minutes with more Pokemon.
Excellent. Whenever you are ready to continue, we are ready.
All right, so we're just going to go for it. I'm going to fight the next trainer here. This is just one controller battle. This is where we're going to use the X spec or the guard spec because this trainer's Eevee, the mirror matchup of the century, has Tail Whip, Growl, and Sand Attack, which are all really bad moves, and guard spec neutralizes all of them. So yeah, so now that the guard spec is used up for the rest of this minigame section, if I go left, it'll give me an X attack. If I go up, it gives me an X special attack. So that's very useful for us. It's always be one input away from the most commonly used items. So yeah, just doing exactly what my notes say here. I'm going to use I'm supposed to use a Sizzly Slide, but again, it doesn't really matter. The reason I keep mixing up Sizzly Slide and Buzzy Buzz is because my beginner notes flip the order from what my muscle memory is used to because this is technically more efficient. So I'm trying to not give beginners bad habits that I have. And I am mis-inputting as a result. So.
It is really difficult to fix bad muscle memory.
Oh yeah. That's so another interesting thing to kind of talk about here, because again, this next battle is also very straightforward. The only thing to note here is that I do use Buzzy Buzz just to slow down the Raticate so I can headbutt it and try to flinch it. But yeah, so for the longest time, for literally since this game came out late 2018, by the way, it's almost 4 years old, which is ridiculous. For the longest time, we had no idea how catch rate stuff worked, zero idea. Unlike every other Pokemon game out there, even Sword Shield got catch rate formula stuff figured out within a a pretty short amount of time, like before Let's Go did, and that came out a year later, right? And it wasn't until when was this? It must have been over a month ago already, like maybe even like a month and a half ago. Data miner / friend who knows a lot of stuff, Anubis, figured out a lot of this stuff and kind of figured out how the catch formula actually works. And now we know how to actually optimize our catches. And what the results was untraining a lot of bad muscle memory, which is really hard and impossible to do. And even though we've known this catch rate stuff now for almost 2 months, we still don't really know, or like, I still have not actually implemented everything, like the positive results of that into my my runs, because I'm just so used to doing things the old way. What I specifically mean is, like, there are a lot of things that I can catch faster now and change my timings for when I throw balls, and it actually impacts things pretty substantially. I was supposed to menu before the other trainer. Pikachu does the menu here. It doesn't matter too much, but I'm going to just do it now. So yeah, I'm trying to unlearn, again, almost 3 years of muscle memory in order to actually catch things faster. And it's starting to work. I'm starting to get the hang of it, and I'm saving like a lot of time as a result. Because it's just little things like, now that we know that 2 Great Balls is better than a Great Ball and a Pokeball, because there's nothing in the game that tells you that's the case. Now that we know that, we can go for, let's say, a nice on a Pokemon instead of an excellent. And that means you can throw it at different times when they attack, and that saves like several seconds per Pokemon that you can do that on. And that's a huge difference in a run that's like this kind of optimized, you know? And then I'm also going to lure and deposit. And now we're good for Route 10. Yeah, we've actually learned a lot about Let's Go that we just didn't know for the longest time. You should always wait for the spinner, by the way. Don't do what I just did, because you will get owned. I should go get that rat. This is where you can start catching Rattata, because from this point onward, anytime you catch it, it only needs 1 level to evolve. You can summon the second player in battle like that and show that cycle. So that's another specific timing that we know. If you get the first cycle rat attack, then you can just throw it as the attack ends and you always get an excellent. But again, just wait for the attack. Totally fine. No sweat at all. It's better to get the guaranteed experience than it is to risk losing that when you're not 100% confident. Even though experience is a little bit less important in this mid-game section than the early game section, you should still always try to get excellent catches while you're learning, just to maximize your experience so nothing bad happens. This is actually okay, I can get that Nidoran. I don't want to catch Nidorino here unless I have to, because it's fast. It's better for me to get the smaller Nidoran, like Nidoran male. And then what I can do with that is just... oh, also, I need to switch to Great Balls. I can just evolve that into a Nidorino. It's much more efficient.
So we do have somebody asking in chat, do you have to use the motion controls? I know you kind of touched on it.
Yeah, this is the greatest flaw with the game, is you have to. You can't even use a Pro Controller in this game. They will not let you. They really wanted it to give you that authentic, painful Pokemon Go experience. And as a result, it's probably the biggest flaw with the game. But I promise it's not that bad. It's not that scary. I'm just going to catch the Nidorino here, because there is no other option. And they are incredibly consistent, especially now that we have the catch rate stuff figured out more. The catches are a lot more reliable. You get trolled less often. You don't get many breakouts at all nowadays, especially because when you use 2 controllers like this, it makes things very reliable. And double Great Balls. That will give me Weeping Bell finally, so that's cool. And also Eradicate. So yeah, we're currently at 20 Pokemon in total. Oh, sorry. 22. I forgot to mark. Oh no, 23. Wow, I just forgot to mark everything. Forgot about Wigglytuff. But yeah, so there's actually 2 ways to play this game. The way I played it casually was in handheld mode on the Switch, which is much easier for someone who doesn't know the motion control stuff, because you just like point and shoot basically where the Pokemon is. Like you just press A and then it shoots the ball for you. But one, you can't really capture that effectively for a speedrun, and two, you wouldn't do that anyway because you get much less experience compared to this approach. So it's really bad if you try that. Also, the game just lags way more in handheld mode. So you don't want to deal with that. But again, I went over motion control stuff at the very start of the run, so if you missed that, definitely you can check out the VOD later. It is not as scary as it seems. It is very, very straightforward. And generally reliable. Also, I like roll back in my chair every time I do it. You don't have to do that. It's just the way my space is set up. Oh, I'm going to get that Spearow, actually. That's really good. So yeah, now that I'm in this heavy catching section, I'm going to keep my lore refreshed this entire time. And until I'm done catching in Rock Tunnel, basically. Because after Rock Tunnel, there's kind of a lull in the catching. It was a pretty good catch route so far. I haven't really lost out on too many Pokemon. So I'm actually at 25 now, and then the Nidoran will evolve into Nidorina, and that'll give me 26. This is a very good catch situation, actually. So yeah, again, I am trying to get 50 Pokemon for Koga. And I can talk more about kind of like Pokemon planning right now, too, because this is a good time to do it. They're like... Oh, what? Did I... Okay. I heard the Windows noise, which can mean anything, but sometimes that means OBS disconnected, so I just had to check that. I think we're good.
I like it, yeah.
But it makes me scared every single time. So, so when you're planning out and trying to figure out, how can I hit that 50 poke requirement? You don't want to get more than 50 Pokemon because each one is, an extra 30 seconds of time loss, right? You don't want to deal with that. You want to hit exactly 50 at exactly the right time, which is basically as soon as you defeat Sabrina. Because after you beat Sabrina, you're going to go straight to Koga, and that's when the check actually happens. Look at my notes for this fight, yep. So how I typically do it, and what I suggest people do is don't unplan things. Just kind of keep all the options open on your planner, on your tracker program, or just keep the options in mind. Like right now, my plan count says 52. Even though I'm not actually going to catch 52 Pokemon. But what that does is it means as I go through the run and things stop showing up, I can start kind of adjusting my plan from there. One thing I see a lot of beginners mess up with is kind of planning too far in advance. Don't worry about whether or not you're going to catch Tentacool when you're at Rock Tunnel. It doesn't really matter. You will know later. I want to Buzzy Buzz this, but this works too. I could have gone for Headbutt times 2, that would have been better. But my HP is really good, so I guess that works out. Because you have no way of knowing what's going to happen later. And what happens on Route 17, which is before you get Sea Skim, the surf move, what happens at that point will drastically influence everything that happens after that. And kind of everything's like a chain reaction type thing. Again, this run's very dynamic, very not traditional speedrun. So, try to if you've done other speedruns before, try to break your speedrunning brain before you try to really optimize yourself at this game, which is hard for me to do, especially. I'm gonna pick up these extra Great Balls. Never a bad idea for a beginner. Because the other thing I see a lot of beginners struggle with too. I'm gonna catch the Zubat and not the Geodude, just the Zubat. Zubat is just throw it and you'll get it in, generally. It's very hard to hit the circle, so don't even bother. This is a very favorite catch, so it's totally fine. The other thing I see a lot of beginners struggle with is seeing that they're, oh shoot, this run's a minute behind at, this split like Brock, or a minute behind at Cerulean. This run stinks. Because in any other speedrun, if you're a minute behind, that's oh, that sucks, ouch. But time is meaningless in this game until you get to Koga, pretty much. Which again, very not traditional speedrun, but it's really hard to kind of break that mindset and think about this game the way you're supposed to think about it. Because to try to break it down, let's take Mount Moon for example. Let's say you have a split for Mount Moon like I do. There is so much that goes into that one split beyond just how fast did you execute it. I could gold Mount Moon and have the worst Mount Moon in my life. I could have my best Mount Moon time ever, and it'll be the worst Mount Moon possible because so many things influence that time, like the amount of Pokemon you caught, the amount of experience you got, because again, every level up is a set amount of time, right? What do we get here? Machop and Cubone is awesome. The fights, of course, influence things, but not as much as everything else, honestly. I'm going to wait for this attack just to show it, because I've been doing my fast catches. That one, you can attack, like, if you throw it as it's finishing its attack, that also works, similar to Geodude's cycle. But usually I just YOLO throw Machops. I'm going to do the same thing on Cubone. Cubone's annoying because it likes to jump around. But yeah, there's just so many things that go into each split. It's not really worth it to like stress out about time. If you're starting this game, like, I wouldn't even have like splits for your first run. Just have a timer, honestly, because it just doesn't matter. Compared to, like, you're going to end up stressing out way too much about the time as a result. So I'm just going to wait for him to attack. Sometimes Cubone likes to take a while. Feel free to be aggressive with Cubone, it's fine. He doesn't give that much experience anyway, but... So that's kind of an interesting thing I didn't talk about too with the catching, is sometimes they're slightly off-center, but if you still do the normal motion, the straight down motion, it'll still like auto-align it for you. Now, if they're a little too far to the side, but they're not far enough where you can do the full like side motion, I do a little trick where I just kind of go like this, like a kind of a 90-degree turn really fast, and that usually gives me the right angle. There's only like 3 actual motions I do in this run, and it's basically straight down, slight angle, or like the full rotation. And how far I do that rotation depends on how far the Pokemon is off like the screen. Anything over there? No. I'm gonna menu now. Do I need to heal this actually? So you can always add, so one other thing to know here too is like, you have 2 options here. You can either deposit things and then add them, or if you just add a Pokemon, you can replace a Pokemon. And it's much more menu efficient to do that. Much more time efficient. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to heal here for safety. This next fight and next section is pretty safe, but just so we don't die. Just so bad things don't happen. The most important thing with Rock Tunnel here is I really need a Graveler and a Rhyhorn, and I do not want to leave without one. There are backup strats, but I don't want beginners to do those backup strats because they're dangerous. And also, it's just so much easier if you do have a Rhyhorn and Graveler. What do I do here? Next time. So yeah, we're always going to leave with the next item here because he likes to use Fake Out. And then I go with Sizzly Slide to burn him so he reduces the amount of damage it does. Nice crit. And then just do it again. I didn't really talk about mashing in this game too much. I mentioned at the very start the most important thing, which is if you hold down one button, then text moves at double speed. And any button that like advances text, so like any button that would work like here, if you just hold that down, it'll work. And the nice thing with Let's Go is that there's like 7 buttons that advance text. So what I typically do is I'll like hold ZL or L, and then I'll mash any combination of like X, A, B. X and A, or like up and down on this Joy-Con, are B buttons effectively, so they just say no automatically, and then everything else is an A button. So that's all you really need to know. You can also use your right Joy-Con, by the way. I didn't really talk about that either. You just have to use one Joy-Con for most of the run. Which one you use is up to you if you're more comfortable with the right or the left. You also don't even have to use the grip like I do. Some people just prefer to just use the Joy-Con by itself, and it's totally fine. Rhyhorn and Graveler, I always Raspberry, and I suggest the same because they give so much experience, it's not really worth risking it. Because we now know that with the Raspberry and the Double Great Balls, this is 99.99% to get in. And the reason it's 99.99% is that there's like a rounding error in these games where it does a shake check for every single shake, and if you get a 1 in 6, 55, 35, it can break out even though it's supposed to be guaranteed. So just don't get unlucky.
That is some of the best speedrunning tips I've ever heard.
It really is, yeah. So Golbat, like I said, awful. Don't catch this. Don't do it. Just stay strong. Avoid it at all costs. Similar to Firo. So yeah, I basically caught everything I wanted in Rock Tunnel. The only thing left is Rhyhorn, which I really do need. I didn't talk too much about other catch-related mechanics. The other important one that, again, isn't a super big deal, but is something worth noting, is that your most recent catch influences spawns. So because I just caught a Graveler, I am more likely to see Gravelers. Not super more likely, but a little bit more likely. So you can keep that in mind. And usually what that means is you want to, like, say when I was on Route 10 earlier, waiting for things to spawn, you don't want to start catching things until Route 10 has 4 spawn slots. You don't want to wait until they're mostly filled up before you start catching, because otherwise you're going to influence the spawns. That also means that if I caught a Rattata on the way to Vermilion earlier, and that was my last thing I caught, then on Route 10 I'm more likely to get Rattatas until I catch something new. So, again, not the end of the world. And if it's happening, you don't have to play around it. You just kind of deal with it. But just something to keep in mind. My experience is really good this run. Being level 27 here is amazing. I got really good luck with the glowing catches, but I do not have a Rhyhorn still, which is, again, big problem. This fight's a little scary sometimes. Oh, I do have the 2 controller strat for this fight. I totally forgot about that. Let me do that. So if you forget to summon the second player before a battle, you can always do it during the battle. It's slower, obviously, but still totally fine. Better than dying. This fight can really hurt you, so I just say to always 2 controller this. Oh, this is dangerous though, because I have Machop in slot 2. I didn't think that through. Because this Kadabra is going to outspeed, so I'm actually going to kind of deviate from this, and I'll adjust the notes to say otherwise, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swap out the Machop so it doesn't die. And if it does die, it's not the end of the world, because all I do is just revive it. Again, we got 3 revives earlier. Totally safe, totally fine. So I'm going to swap this out for Cubone. Cubone works. Cubone's actually pretty decent at tanking some hits from certain things in the game. Machop would have obviously just been incinerated there, but Cubone managed to stay alive, so that was cool. Graveler also would have been fine. But yeah, you want to have something else in slot 2 for this. And just Golbat. Okay, we're now at 31 Pokemon. Oh, sorry, 32. Let me look over my tracker again just to make sure I'm not misleading you all. Yeah, 32. Which again, this is a great catch situation. Really do need Rhyhorn though. If I don't get Rhyhorn, I will have to wait for it, and I don't want that to happen. Rhyhorn is much more important in Eevee than Pikachu as well. There are more backup strats if you don't get Rhyhorn in Pika version, especially in terms of movement, because one other thing in this game is that you can actually ride Pokemon and they are faster than walking, or some of them are faster at least. Oh, there's a Rhyhorn. It's behind this trainer. Like I said, I'm going to razz this as well. And now that we're done catching too, I'm going to no longer keep my lure up. Okay. Alright, 33 Pokemon and we're done. We're out of here. Again, if you want to follow along with the notes, they're all on speedrun.com, or you can also get the tracker program from speedrun.com. The way it works is it's just a list of Pokemon, and you click the ones as you catch them and kind of figure out your plan for 50 Pokemon. That's what I'm using right now to make sure I am actually going to hit my goal by the time I get to Koga. So I have to wait here for him to spin. Gonna avoid Onix, because Onix is the worst thing in the entire world. Never catch Onix in Rock Tunnel. Mount Moon is okay. Sometimes I still wouldn't recommend it, but Mount Moon Onix is so hard to catch. Basically, the way the catch formula works is like the higher level something is, the more stats it's going to have, which means it makes it harder to catch. And the difference between Mount Moon and Rock Tunnel is pretty high in terms of levels and stats, so you just don't want to deal with it. I'm going to leave an X special here, and I'm going to just do Bouncy Bubble to one-shot everything. This Meowth also likes to lead with Fake Out, so that's why we use the X item there. And Bouncy Bubble means we are always full health going into the next fight. Oh, and also now that Rhyhorn's in my party, I need to actually use him as my mount Pokemon, so we're going to do that. Oh yeah, if you didn't notice too, like, we don't have the HM equivalent of Flash for moving around in Rock Tunnel, but you can just see totally fine, so works out pretty well. So I'm going to move Rhyhorn to slot 2. Everything else looks good in my party. Oh, I need to actually mount it by pressing the minus or plus button. And now we're just going to ride on Rhyhorn this whole time. Like I said, we're just kind of progressing the story right now. We're not going to fight any gym leaders, not going to keep that lure up. Again, our goal is basically just to rush to Staryu, which is going to be our new main. And then we're going to destroy all the gyms after we get them. Okay, so there's another 2v1 fight. You might be noticing we're doing this a lot to our rival because these rival fights are pretty scary. And you're also going to see pretty soon here that the level curve jumps up pretty hard, pretty fast. This game is not easy if you don't spend a lot of time just catching Pokemon for fun. The battles get pretty hard pretty fast. And if you don't have speedrun tricks and tips, then you can lose pretty easily if you just try to do the fights without spending a lot of time catching for experience. See, I'm going to use Buzzy Buzz here. Use an X Special, similar to last time. One thing to note though is that the order that the rival's Pokemon comes out in varies, and the strat you do changes depending on what you see first. Best case scenario is seeing Gloom first, because that means you don't have to use a Drill Run on Raichu, because you can just kind of pump up Eevee instead, and you don't want to use Drill Run because it has a 5% chance to miss. There are advanced strats that involve using Double Edge there, but I am not doing that, and that is not in the beginner notes. So yeah, the nice thing is basically for the rest of the run, every Pokemon that we catch is going to be the correct decision because of everything's going to be so high level that they're all going to evolve within a single level up. The only things that take multiple levels to evolve at this point are Cubone, Machop, and Krabby if you caught it. I didn't catch Krabby though. And kind of going over the math again, every level up takes like 2 seconds, a little under 2 seconds, I believe. If it tries to learn a move, that's an additional like 1 to 2 seconds. So if something takes 4 levels to evolve versus 1, then you're losing 6 seconds, basically. And if it learns a move, like Cubone and Machop do, then it's like 8 seconds. So typically you don't have control, though, if you're going to do Machop or Cubone. The other thing to note, too, is like early catches are... it's better to have high catch counts going into mid-game than not, because the less things you have to catch later, the faster things tend to go. Endgame catches also tend to be the slowest catches because they are higher level Pokemon. They have fancier cycles. They like to troll you. So I'm going to escape rope out of there. Then we're going to run away. There's Jesse and James again. We're going to follow them all the way to Celadon into the game corner. So just looking at my catch route right now, my plan right now is to... I'm going to Firestone Vulpix into a Ninetales. And then I'm going to catch a Ponyta, evolve it into Rapidash, catch a Doduo, evolve it into Dodrio, catch Psyduck, evolve it, catch Coughing, evolve it. Likely catching Ghastly, otherwise I have to find an alternative like Tentacool. And then Staryu, and then we get 2 free gift Pokemon later. So that'll give us a perfect 50. That's pretty clean. But I do have a lot of other options right now. Again, Tentacool is the biggest other option. There's a lot of weirder, harder endgame options like Magmar, Ditto, Tangela. You typically don't want to go for those, but if you have to, you have to. It is what it is. Flinch is cool. Oh, Cry Chop's fine. This is the one metronome you have to tank in the entire run. I have seen very scary attacks here. I've seen it gone for Fissure, the one-hit KO move, several times. I've seen it do Substitute, which is like the worst thing ever. I've seen it do... I think I've seen it... I might be thinking of Sword Shield. It's almost killed me several times, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, free Abra. That is an exciting change, so I'm going to take this for sure. I think this goes straight into my party, too. So Abra's kind of a weird catch. I'm going to use a Nanab Berry on it. Nanab makes Pokemon calm down and stop. So if they're moving or they're attacking a lot, that prevents that from happening, which is really cool. So Abra is one of those catches you typically want to use a Nanab on. You can also just use a Raz on it and then just try to hit it, but it is hard. And sometimes there's two different like Abra movement cycles. One, it goes really fast, one, it goes pretty slow. The slow one's a lot easier to hit. Fast one is impossible. But yeah, I went through here because it gave me a chance at Abra, and I can grab the Firestone. There's a better Firestone to grab later too. And the 1% Kadabra, are you serious? Look at that little Kadabra. Oh, it's big now. Yeah, never catch Kadabra either, that's bad. In general, if anything's like an evolved Pokemon, it's probably much worse to catch. Pidgeotto's like the one flying bird that's like evolved that's not horrible to catch. With the Nanab and like an Ultra Ball and a Great Ball, if you get an Excellent, it's totally fine. And it's not too hard to get an Excellent with the Nanab. But yeah, now that we have the Abra, that actually simplifies the catch route even more. So I'm either going to cut out Ghastly or Psyduck, kind of depends on how catches shake out, or I can cut out Coughing. And Eevee version Coughing is pretty annoying. That Pidgeotto is only in like the level like 20s, depending on what level it is. I don't remember what the level range is, but you don't want to catch that if you want a Pidgeot. You have to catch one later. So we're going to teach another broken move called Glitzy Glow. We're going to get rid of Sizzly Slide for it. And then we're also going to go over to the left side. So if you noticed earlier, I went back here to check if my time was set correctly. This is all mentioned in the notes, but if people know Pokemon games pretty well, you know about the ability Synchronize, which is basically an ability your Pokemon can have that forces all Pokemon you run into to be that same nature of that Pokemon that has Synchronize. This is the replacement of that in this game, but it's just an NPC. You give them $10,000, and they give you a Synchronize effect for the next until the next day. So that's why your time matters. If you start a run at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and the clock rolls over at a bad time, that really stinks. You don't want that to happen. This is just start the battle. Glitzy Glow is a special move, 90 power, psychic type. Very useful in this section where you face a lot of poison types. And the fun side effect to it is that it actually sets up a light screen for you. So every other move has a fun side effect. That is the fun side effect for this one. Doesn't look like we're going to two-shot. I'm going to go for Bouncy Bubble times 2 here instead. Get a little bit more HP out. Oh, stop flinching. Oh, I got trolled. It's okay. So my notes... So I did lie a little bit. I said there was no math in these notes. There is a little bit. All it says is just heal to 57 or higher. So we're going to do that. There is a little bit more math towards the end because you just need to know like the max damage that certain attacks do to you so you can heal or not heal. That's all that's in these notes though, I promise. There's not that much math. This is very, very straightforward. So I'm going to use that super, heal up.
Still,
that Abra did go to my party.
Still significantly less math than normal Pokemon runs.
Yes, there are no charts, there are no tables in these notes. So you can breathe easy.
You don't need a math degree to understand it.
Yeah. And yeah, this is another reason why I recommend Eevee for beginners, even though I love Pikachu a lot, is Eevee, you basically just solo all these fights with Eevee, and it works out totally fine. Eevee is very capable on its own because thanks to Glitzy Glow and also Headbutt. Whereas Pikachu needs help from some friends, and it makes the notes and the fights a lot more complicated, so I'm just not going to worry about that. So yeah, just gonna headbutt here. If you put me to sleep, I would just heal it with the Awakening. If you ever get put to sleep in this run, you should really just heal it immediately. Poison, sometimes you heal it. You'll get a feel for it as you do more runs. Yeah, this is no math %. This is the good Pokemon arc. But there, I assure you, if you want to do math, the advanced notes have plenty of it. You can definitely check those out too. I have advanced notes for both versions that are very up to date with a lot of the new info we have. Is my X attack count fine? Yeah, we're good. I only need 2 more after this one. And after this fight, we're going to see a new strategy, or an old strategy instead of the newer strategy. But it's the one we haven't done in this run yet, which is withdrawing a Pokemon for the sole purpose of it dying. So we're going to withdraw a Pokemon that can be one hit by Arbok or Weezing, but typically by Arbok. In this case, it's going to be either a Clefairy, a Jigglypuff, a Wigglytuff, or a Paras. Jiggly and Wiggly are typically the best, but all of them are totally fine. Whatever you find first is okay. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff are technically a little bit better because they have a higher base friendship, and that means that they sometimes can just live fatal attacks through the power of love, which we're going to talk more about later too, because that will become relevant eventually. But that makes them slightly more useful. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that menu now. I'm going to get Graveler back. I was supposed to keep this, but it doesn't matter too much. And then I'm going to... I'm trying to think what's the right beginner answer for this. So I want to bring in Wigglytuff. I could just sack Machop. Or Cubone, because it took the hit already. No, we'll bring back Cubone later. Let's make this simple. I'm going to heal here as well. What I should have done was done the box in the bag. You can access your Pokemon box through the bag or through the party menu. The party menu is you just go into your party and then press Y or left on the left Joy-Con. Grimer is kind of a scary fight here because it has minimize. You can also disable your Litzy Glow, but that's not the end of the world if that happens. You should still be able to kill it pretty easily. Close. Okay, so there. That's a good example. I did get the disable, so I'm going to use Bouncy Bubble to finish it off. When your friendship is a certain level, in this case, it's like over 153 or something, which has happened with my EVA. We have hit that threshold. That means a couple different things. One, sometimes I can like live out fatal attack, or I can live out fatal attacks more often, just randomly. Sometimes my Eevee will heal itself from bad statuses. So if I get poisoned, sometimes it'll just have a little heart icon appear above it and just get rid of it for me, which is pretty cool. There's also the fact that if I use any healing item or use a super effective move, my Pokemon looks at me, generates a text box, and wastes 2 seconds of my time. So friendship management is also a thing in this run. You don't have to really think about it for Eevee. And if you do the route the way the notes say too, you don't have to worry about it for Starmie either. But a lot of the Starmie, the Starmie route would be a lot simpler if you could just throw 6 rare candies on it and call it a day. But if you do that, you get the turnarounds that we call them really early on, which would lose you a ton of time. So we kind of delay them as long as possible. We don't even get that friendship threshold until the 3rd member of the Elite Four. Up next is some of the scariest fights in mid-game. The scariest fights with Eevee, pretty much. The chain of them, 3 of them. You can menu between them, fortunately. It's Jesse and James, the Rocket Admin Archer is his name, and then Giovanni. And we get to use a cool strat. I did put the cool strat for Giovanni, the Etiquette came out with a long time ago. Which again, the advanced notes don't do it now. I found a strat that utilizes Sizzly Slide for Persian, and basically takes advantage of the burn to make sure you don't die, but it is scarier and it does involve math, and you can still die if the game trolls you, so that's not in the beginner notes. So Just going through this puzzle again. Not gonna kind of describe the puzzle or anything. If you just watch it and copy it, you're good. There's actually 2 ways to do this puzzle. It doesn't matter which way you do it. They're basically the same. So we're gonna take the elevator to B4F. My party situation's already good. I already healed up everything. Eevee didn't take really any damage from the other fight. And again, Wigglytuff is in slot 2. So what's going to happen here is our AI opponents are going to see that they can kill Wigglytuff and are going to try to kill it. And that's important because you really don't want to get Glare on Eevee, which Arbok can do. And you also just don't want them to both hit Eevee because Eevee will die. So by doing this, you guarantee that you live another turn. So you always go for Buzzy Buzz on this Arbok so that you can outspeed it the next turn and just kill it. Throw an X special onto the Eevee to buff up that damage. Yeah, so one of them targeted. Really tough, one of them targeted me. Didn't get glared, so that's cool. Gonna send out the Rhyhorn here. And now we're gonna start using that Glitzy Glow. If you have really high special attack, you can one-shot these things with Glitzy Glow pretty easily, but it is very rare to do it at +2. And again, that involves math, so it's not in these notes, but if you want to see the math, it is in the advanced notes. The Pikachu version of this fight actually uses Rhyhorn to attack. It's very scary, because Rhyhorn isn't... Oh, see, okay, there's the friendship thing, cool. But it uses Rhyhorn because it's just much stronger than Pika is for taking out these Pokemon. Use an X special here. Gives me that one-shot guaranteed. Got that turnaround animation, totally fine. And then we're good. So yeah, because I put Graveler in slot 3 specifically, and our slot 2 Pokemon is fainted, that means Graveler is going to go out automatically in this next fight. So I'm going to call for help here. Again, my HP is not amazing. I'm going to go ahead and heal. Oh no, I did heal. I already forgot. I forgot to do that turn 2. I was thinking of my HP after the first turn. And like I said, these fights are scary, but there is no real need to save. The only safety save I'm going to do is towards the end of the run, because that's when it can actually go badly. It's the last few fights. Because if you die to, like, Champion, you have to redo the entire Elite Four, and nobody wants to do that. So, those are basically the only times we're going to safety save, because everything else is generally pretty safe in this game. If you die, you always just revive, go back in. You generally have a party full of Pokemon, so it's not too bad if you die. You can always send out something. So I'm going to Glitzy Glow and X Special here. Oh, I got the one-shot. Wow, okay. I wasn't even paying attention. That's not supposed to normally one-shot. This is just a decent Eevee. Cool. I forgot, I did have higher special attack than normal, so yeah, that makes sense. And my experience is pretty good. That Abra level up will give me Kadabra. That'll bring me up to 35 Pokemon. I'm gonna use Buzzy Buzz, but it doesn't actually matter. And then I'm gonna use Rock Slide. Just in case you have a weaker Eevee, Rock Slide helps finish off this gold. You can't miss though. If it does miss, you just do it again. And it is paralyzed, so it'll just go down next turn. You use that time to heal up your Eevee too. Oh no, you don't have to heal Eevee here, because this is the fun strat. I feel so silly saying things like Sizzly Slide and Buzzy Buzz all the time. It's
I wasn't gonna bring it up. But like they're such funny names.
The best part is, so there's another move, I don't know if people saw it earlier, but when I was teaching Glitzy Glow, a trainer also offers the dark type move called Batty Bad, which is the best name in the game. And it's very sad we don't actually use it in the run, but if you do want to see a run that uses it, I have a run on my YouTube of Eevee alt main where you just beat the entire game with your starter Eevee, and that does use Batty Bad, and it is a very fun time. I do runs like that a lot on my Twitch, like alt main runs. If you're interested in that, you can check that out. But we're going to do something weird here. I'm going to dismiss my trainer. I'm going to put Graveler in slot 1. This is the first fight we're not doing with our Eevee. And you're going to be like, how is Graveler going to win this fight? I have to deal with a Persian and a Rhyhorn. How am I going to win? And these are called boom strats. So we're going to boom. I'm going to go boom boom. And then after this, there's a couple more fights, a little bit of catching, but a couple more fights, and then a huge catching gauntlet, and then we're basically done with catching after that. So the rest of the run's pretty straightforward once we get our catching situation kind of nailed down. So I'm going to do 2 X attacks here. Because I am rock ground type, this Persian cannot really hurt me. And then I'm going to go boom with self-destruct. Goodbye, Graveler. Thank you for your service. Takes out the Persian. And the reason we do this is Eevee doesn't have a super effective fighting move for the Persian, and it's kind of hard to deal with. They're all, again, the newer strats involve using Sizzly Slide and just kind of hitting it multiple times, and it works out to be faster than this. And now we just go for a Bouncy Bubble. Probably runs 4 times weak to water, just dies. Alright, and that's Rocket Hideout, one of the scariest parts in terms of the fights. At least for the first section before we switch to Starmie. Glad that's out of the way, glad that's done. So, kind of looking over my catch situation again. I'm kind of just going to catch a lot of the normal staples that you would typically catch. Again, if you're kind of wondering how to figure out what you're supposed to be catching, the notes do have tables throughout them for like, these are things you can catch here, and this is a good time to catch it. And then there's also a great document written by Joker Sleeps at the top of the notes that kind of go over the entire catch route logic, and will give you a good idea of what you're supposed to actually do for, like which Pokemon should you normally plan, and when should you catch which Pokemon, because the timing does matter thanks to the level up system in this game. So, very important. So we're going to get another secret technique. Is it just called Fly? No, it's called... what is it called? Skydash. Skydash, yeah. I swear I remembered it before I read it. This is basically just Fly. So now we can fly anywhere in the game by going to the town map, anywhere we've been to. So we're going to do that immediately. But first, and it's very important you remember this, to swap Eevee back to slot 1. In this case, it didn't matter because Graveler was dead. I'm going to pop a lure here. But it would have mattered for the next fight because I get a full party heal pretty soon. I'm going to go over some specific movement in this tower when it comes up. This is another kind of like fast movement trick here. I'll show the kind of safer option than the fast option. There's a rival again. He's a chicken, so we're gonna lead the way. For some reason, he's scared of a bunch of unidentifiable ghost Pokemon. I don't know why. So we got the Silph Scope from Hideout, and these weird little Pokemon are actually going to be real Pokemon now. So Ghastly is a very annoying catch, but typically you have to kind of rely on it. And it does evolve very fast, but it's just one of the slower catches. And this is, again, why I was mentioning that early catch count is really good. So, really quickly, my plan for Ghastly is I need to... If I don't catch Ghastly, I need to do it on the next catch anyway, but I need to switch one of my players' balls to Ultra Balls. So the rest of the game, I'm going to be using 1 Ultra Ball, 1 Great Ball for all my 2-player catches. If you just have like a ton of Ultra Balls for some reason, you can do double Ultra Balls, and that will make all the catches basically guaranteed, or near guaranteed if you get good hits on them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the Ultra Ball. I'm also going to Nanab berry it as fast as possible. Depending on how it moves around, I might Nanab first. If it starts moving immediately, I might do the Ultra Ball first to try to get it in a good position, because once I Nanab it, it's going to stop moving, typically. Also, I was not expecting that many to immediately throw me into the fight. So yeah, it's not moving yet, so I'm going to use a Nanab. If you don't have a Nanab, just Razz it. Totally fine. Miss the circle. You never try to aim for an excellent on Ghastly. Great is all you can really ask for. They're very annoying to catch, but with Ultra Ball and a Great Ball, even if you don't hit the circle, your odds are still decent. Have I had any breakouts this run? No, I haven't. Okay. You can probably expect a lot more breakouts when you're starting out. It's very normal. It's less. Oh, actually, yeah, it's less normal than it used to be because, or you're less likely to get breakouts now with the new catch rate information. So there's 2 ways to do the movement in this room. I'll show the safe way first. You kind of want to ride up here and then just go past her. You want to wait till she spins and then go. That's the. I'm going to cancel the lure now because I got my ghastly. But if you do that, you want to go all the way up here and you want to hug this wall and then go down. That's like the stress-free way to do it. The fast way to do it is you want to rush down immediately to her, like going down and left, and then you kind of snake around her, and then I'll show you what you want to do after that. So just go around this, go here, and then yeah. So you might be like, why can't she see me right now? And as long as you're hugging this wall, she will not be able to fight you. If I go up like a pixel, she will see me. So ideally what happens is before she spins here, you get into this little crevice and you just start holding down. You can run like this, totally fine. And then you go up here. Trainer vision in this game is very, very limited. Even though sometimes it can go really far, sometimes really short, but it's a very tiny range. So it's not like the length of their player model, like it is in the older games because it's a tile-based system. So you can do a lot of fun stuff like that. These fights are just use Glitzy Glow, special, super effective move. Sometimes it doesn't kill. If that happens, you can always finish it off with Bouncy Bubble for the sole purpose of not getting turnarounds. I'm getting extra levels in the Kadabra, but it wasn't worth depositing it. Like I mentioned before, it's probably only gaining like 2 levels max. Depositing takes 6 to 7 seconds. Absolutely not worth it. This spinner, by the way, doesn't look up, so I could just stand here and she'll never see me. And if this was Omega Ruby, then she would have spotted me there because they can like see you as you're turning. But that's not the way this game works. As soon as they start turning, you're safe to pass. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, there's we can talk about mount skips later. So spoiler alert, this is the overlay says it. This is not just straight up any percent. This is any percent no mount skips, which is a separate category and the primary one. This is basically the category we used to call any percent, but we found basically other community members found a weird glitch where sometimes you could just run past trainers on Rapidash, and it's been fleshed out a lot recently, such that thanks to again Anubis helping us figure things out. Especially we can actually do it perfectly consistently now, whereas before it was just completely random. Maybe like a 5% chance if you actually got one in any given run, maybe 2% chance to just like skip a trainer, which saves like a minute, right? Like that's huge. Especially in this game where like for the longest time, top 4 and Eevee was like 21 seconds apart, like between 1st and 4th place, which is wild. For a 3-hour long run. It was just completely random, but now we have perfect setups for it. You do need like specific controllers that are able to do perfect cardinal directions because normal Joy-Cons can't do that, at least reliably. So it is a separate category. I'm not going to show them today because I want to show off the normal like no mount skip run. And you definitely don't worry about it if you're a beginner because one, not that many people even run the mount skip stuff because it is super new and does require a specific controller. But you'll learn more by doing the regular category anyway. Okay, so this Jesse and James fight works exactly the same as the last one. The scarier thing here is that Arbok and Weezing have more moves now. Before they only had like Sludge, Poison Jab, and then Toxic / Glare. Now they have like Dark type moves. I think Weezing has Flamethrower. It's not a good time. But I'm gonna do the exact same thing, except this time I can actually lead with Graveler or Rhyhorn, doesn't matter which one I send out. Rhyhorn's preferred in the other one because he used Graveler in the next fight. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to Buzzy Buzz. That was my bad. This is still safe if you do make this mistake or you go for the one shot because you think you can do it. It doesn't matter too much. You'll be fine. This is basically the strat we do in the advanced version. You just kind of go for it and hope nothing bad happens. And it tends to work out thanks to that light screen that Glitzy Glow sets up. But yeah, the Mount Soup stuff was super cool. Spent a lot of time on that, working that out. A lot of testing, a lot of manual testing. There's a video on my YouTube if you want to see them in action. It looks effortless. It's super cool how they developed. I kind of just run past all the trainers on Aerodactyl. Nope, not that. I'm going to use Glitzy Glow. Here, the small little trick is, I'll show it here really quickly, is if both these Pokemon are dead, if you target this one, it'll just attack the one that's alive. So keep that in mind. I'm going to expect. I should be trying to go over more like specific menuing tricks, and I am going to do that more in the Starmie section where they're more relevant. I spent more time on the catch stuff because that's just more important in early game. And we'll do, we'll go over a few more catch things very soon, because now we're in another catch gauntlet section. It's been a while since we caught some Pokemon. We're going to catch a lot now. We're basically going to finish up our catching in this next section. So we're going to go straight back to Celadon. We have the Pokeflute now, so we can get past Snorlax, and then catch a bunch of Pokemon, and then get Surf, and then catch a bunch more Pokemon and go to Cinnabar. So let's see, what does my notes say to do here? I'm going to remove all my Pokemon that will not evolve. I'm going to put that Ghastly into slot 1. Goodbye, Eevee. Thank you for everything. Going to keep Rhyhorn as well, because it is our ride Pokemon. Going to use the Lure. We're going to fly back to Celadon. If people played the older game, you know that the older games, you know that you get the T to get past the guards to get into Saffron from a random person inside this building over here. They changed it in this game, so Brock just stands outside and gives it to you. So we just go past him to get that T. So I kind of, this was kind of implied from the start because I mentioned the Pokemon Go stuff. There haven't been any wild Pokemon battles this entire time. They do exist in the game, and we're actually going to see one right now. They typically only exist for like special occasions. So in this case, Snorlax being a stationary encounter, you have to defeat it in battle first, and then you can catch it. Same thing goes with any of the legendaries. Like Moltres, you have to defeat it first. Mewtwo, you have to defeat it first, and then you can catch it. In the same format, same way you do any other Pokemon in the game. But we're not catching any legendaries this run. We're not going to catch anything once we get that 50 Poke requirement done. So how's our catches doing now? So we're at 36 Pokemon total. I'm at 52 planned. 54 if you include Tentacles, so I can cut out quite a few things. But I don't know what I'm cutting out until I see what Route 17 has in store for me. Ghastly's good to throw out here because it has good enough speed to outspeed Snorlax and Runaways reliably. That's why we send it out. Sometimes you can cut this bush to get Pokemon here. It's totally fine to catch Dodo or a Pidgey here. But I'm not going to do it this time. Typically, I like to wait if I can. Because minorly, the Pokemon here are higher level, but 2, cutting the bush is really slow. Another important movement thing. So there's this trainer over here. He has very long vision. If I'm like over here and I try to pass him, he's going to see me. So what you want to do is, you saw how I use this Pokeball here. I don't pick it up. I just run into it to despawn my Rhyhorn. I run into this fence and I just keep running into it, hold left, he doesn't see me. Again, trainer vision very narrow. And this is how the mount skips work too, is you just kind of accelerate perfectly past their trainer vision and they can't see you. So Psyduck is a Pokemon I can catch, and this is again the best time to catch it. You can see it earlier. Psyduck, you always want to wait for it to attack, always. No exception, just wait. It attacks fast very, very often. Yeah, I don't know why Mr. Fuji feels the need to run all the way over there. He's a very old man, I feel bad. Where's Machoke? I was supposed to put Cubone back in my party, that was a mistake. We can actually correct that though, so on-the-fly decision-making, because I made a mistake with not withdrawing Cubone, what I'm going to do is fix my catch count by removing Marowak completely from my planned route, That gives me 51 planned, so I want to even that out still. I'm going to get rid of Ninetales as well, so I'm going to skip the Firestone, which is good because it's really slow to grab. And as long as I get Ponyta, Doduo, Grimer, Staryu, I'm good. I will still hit 50 in time. We also get 2 gift Pokemon at Silph Co. I didn't mention that yet, but we'll get those later. Okay, there's Ponyta. Awesome. Ponyta is going to be a ride Pokemon for the rest of the game. Ponyta can jump. You should always throw as fast as possible. Kind of explaining the logic behind YOLO throwing a bit. So, YOLO throwing, if you can afford to, is always a good idea, as long as you don't need the experience, because there's two scenarios. One is it attacks, and you don't get the throw, but that's okay or you don't get the catch, and that's okay because if it attacks, it stays still for a while, and you can just throw it again, totally guaranteed. It's not going to jump around. Or 2, you just get it and it's really fast. So yeah, this is the Pidgey I was talking about. If you catch this, it can evolve twice, which is awesome and very efficient because evolutions are slightly faster than catches. 99% of the time. Picking up all these extra items. Gonna pick up these silver Razzes for safety as well. These are just better versions of the raspberries. You can get Eevee here. It's only really relevant on Pika version. I can't catch another Eevee. It's not a good use of resources. I did not get Doduo, so I'm gonna do the beginner thing here that I've said to do, which is just to wait. The fast thing to do, and what you're going to see most top speedrunners do, is just never wait for anything. You summon my trainer? Nope. So in this case, Doduo actually started jumping before I could even YOLO throw the way I could have. If he jumps like that, you can't do that. And you have time to react to that, so it's not a big deal. No, I did not. So I found out basically nothing for this game. I started running this game a year after it came out. So I missed all the cool, like, initial weirdness of the run. Some other weird things were, like, for the longest time, the second controller thing was banned. It only became normal after people realized, after like long enough time passed. Because what happens is, like, if you do a 2-controller run, like right now, you should get 0 breakouts if you play correctly. Maybe 1 if you're just being really aggressive. If you do a 1-controller run, you'll get like 30 breakouts. Like, it's that much worse than the catches. And it's just so much less reliable and not enjoyable. So I'm going to go ahead here and move a couple things around. So I'm going to just deposit all these guys. I'm going to rare candy the Ponyta immediately here. This gives me Rapidash now. You can't ride Ponyta, you can only ride Rapidash. But yeah, most of the things I found in this game, like, I worked a lot on the mount skip stuff, which we're not going to see today. I worked a lot on, like, fight routing, especially in the last year. I made a lot of optimizations to the fights. And then very, very minor stuff beyond that. But a lot of the core route and stuff was all done way before I even touched this game. This is the first Pokemon speedrun I learned in 2019, right before Sword Shield came out. Before that, I started speedrunning early 2019 with Kingdom Hearts 3. Gonna cancel the lore there. Then I did a little bit of Earthbound, a little bit of other random games here and there until I was like, hey, I'll try Pokemon. And then I've been doing Pokemon speedruns for the last like 2-3 years. But yeah, anything that's already fully evolved doesn't need any more levels and more levels of time lost, so I'm just going to deposit there while I have the opportunity. And now we're going to get Surf. So there's only 2 things I want to catch now. Coughing and Staryu. Staryu, you always need to catch no matter what. Coughing is kind of an annoying catch because it's kind of similar to Abra, where it just kind of goes back and forth. You can either nab it or wait for it to attack. Either option is fine. I'll do the wait for attack option. I'll just like use a Silver Raz so it is like guaranteed to get in. I would definitely recommend always just grabbing those Silver Raspberries that I grabbed. Because we are forced to do a 1-controller catch on the Staryu. You're forced to do it with all water catches for some reason. It is awful. Staryu's not too bad to catch compared to Tentacool. I definitely always grab them if you are going to catch Tentacle. Because what the Silver Razzes let you do is like, you don't really have to get an excellent to get a good catch rate. You just have to hit it. And if you get like a decent circle, like a nice or a great, then you're totally set. I think this is the best looking Switch Pokemon game for sure. I love the art style. It's very good for that Gen 1 nostalgia, especially. So we're gonna go to Pallet Town now. We're gonna go surf straight to Cinnabar. And again, pop the lure so we can get a max level Staryu. You don't actually need a lure up for Grimer, or Coughing. It's Grimer in Pikachu version. The catch rate's pretty high, or the spawn rate's pretty high. So really quickly, I'm just gonna note over here. There's a lot of things you can catch in this grass patch that are useful. You can get the rats, Rattata, or Eradicate here. You can get that Pidgey, that also will evolve twice in 2 levels. Bellsprout, if you for some reason you got a Bulbasaur and did not see a Bellsprout going into Brock, because you can use Bulbasaur as a grass type Pokemon to get into Brock. You can catch one here, and then it's 1 level away from evolving. It's really awesome. If you don't get Bellsprout, by the way, you should always just use Bulbasaur/Ivysaur as your second Pokemon to get through some of the early game section. Just always evolve it. You can get a Tangela here, which is really good. Pidgeotto, that kind of stuff. There's my Staryu. Hopefully it's a good Staryu. Again, it is guaranteed to be Modest Nature because I did that synchronized thing, which means it is plus special attack minus attack, which is awesome. Wait for it to attack, always. Throw. Missed the circle, but I did do the Silver Razz, so it still has a decent chance of getting it. And there it is. Yeah, I actually bought the Pokeball Plus controller recently. I haven't used it yet. I haven't opened it. It is not cheap to get one brand new because all the used ones have the Mew already taken out of it. Because each one only gets 1 Mew. It's very cool. Gonna grab this Water Stone because we're gonna use that to Staryu. The only thing similar with Sword Shield is like Pokemon in the overworld. Yeah, I don't need the lure now. There's no reason to keep it up. Each time the lure prompts you, it loses you time. So if you don't need it, don't use it. This swimmer, by the way, only faces down and left. I always see people like freaking out about passing them. He also has incredible vision. Like if I'm over here and I go a little bit further, as soon as he's on screen, he'll see me. So yeah, you can always just go around him like this. He won't see you. Just go all the way down here, ride the rocks. Good to go. If this was normal 90%, I'd go into the lab, get Aerodactyl, but we're not doing that. And we're gonna do the menu now. If you are gonna be catching Coughing or Grimer, if you're playing Pikachu version, I definitely recommend doing the menu that the notes say before you do that catch, just to give Staryu a little bit more experience. So I'm gonna go to my box first. Gonna move, not that. Staryu to slot 1 and then wrap Dodo to slot 2, right. Gonna use 3 rare candies on Staryu. I'm gonna see what my stats are here. Oh my god, this is a really good Staryu. Where is this in my speedruns? What? You're gonna teach Hydro Pump in slot 2. It's very important that you do not Water Stone first and that you do not catch a Starmie, because Starmie does not learn Psychic or Hydro Pump by default. So you want to do this first and then evolve it. And this is our main for the rest of the game. We're gonna not use the Firestone. I picked it up, but even though I did pick it up earlier, it's still better to not use it, because the way I rerouted my catches to kind of cut it out was a faster option. Yeah, if you really like the catching Pokemon aspect too, there are other categories that do that. There's a Diploma, which is a co-op catch-em-all category, because again, the internet exists, so you can just do trades online. It's pretty cool. Definitely a good time if you want to just have fun with a friend for 6 hours or so. You can teach Scald in slot 1. There's also all obtainable Pokemon, which is 1-player catch-em-all, so just catching all the Pokemon you can in your version of the game. That's like 134, 35 Pokemon. So looking for a Grimer here. I don't have the lure up, but it should be totally fine. You're very likely to see one here anyway. Or Coughing. I keep saying Grimer because I'm used to Pikachu. It's a version exclusive. He's not moving. Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, just go. Like I said, your options are either to wait for it to attack. If it's moving around, it'll eventually stop to attack in the center. Or Nanab bury it. Either one's fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with. There's Golduck. And we are done catching Pokemon. We are just done. All we have left to do now is evolve Doduo, evolve we already did Haunter. Evolve this Coughing, and then get 2 free gift Pokemon later, and then we're good. That's it. That's 50 Pokemon. And then we're ready to clean up the rest of the game. And I'll talk more about menu techniques, a little bit more advanced once we get to the Starmie section. And if you also want to look at my notes, they do have maps for where to go in a lot of places. I didn't make a lot of them. I kind of like updated the older beginner notes, but they are very useful if you are not 100% confident in where to go. I always recommend like looking through a run first before you do a run, but even if you do that, it's really easy to forget things. Fun fact, by the way, if one of those Pokemon goes into one of the doorways, and you close the gate on them, they disappear. They just evaporate. So I summoned second player here. There's a cute movement trick thing where you like use this trainer to block this person so they can't see you. Doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, I cannot evolve my Eevee. So your starter Pokemon, if you have Pikachu or Eevee as your starter, you cannot evolve them. It is very much a Pokemon Yellow remake in that way. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to do Psychic next special attack. And what that means is that Electrode's going to always target Doduo because he can just one-shot it. Or do that. That's incredibly unlucky. So the reason that happened is because Electrode rolled a chance to crit me in its damage calcs and went for that. It was like, oh, it has a chance to kill me, so I'll do that instead. So I use a Paralyze heal. That's incredibly rare. This basically never happens. But fortunately, I didn't die, and I also didn't get paralyzed, so totally fine. Ditto thing's just a safety thing mostly. The advanced strat is just to go with Rapidash and hope for the best. Also, even though there are technically no random encounters in this game because they all spawn in the overworld, they can still spawn directly on top of you, which is effectively a random encounter. Why am I only getting Rattatas? What is going on? Oh my gosh. So up here, this spinner is really scary. Never ever fight them. They have an Electabuzz. They will kill you. Always be patient with them. Always wait till they spin. In general, for spinning passing, you just wait till they finish. I didn't want to double dead. If you just wait for them to spin, it's always safe to pass. So just always do that. So here, I'm just going to wait for them to spin. Go. Wait for them to spin. Go. You don't do any fancy tricks. Nothing like that. I'm going to grab this Max Elixir. And now we're good to go. We're going to get out of here. And we're going to start fighting gym leaders. So like I said, we've only fought 2 gym leaders this entire time. This 2 hours that this run has been going on. And now we're going to fight 3 of them in a row. So we're doing a pretty big level jump here too. This is the other reason why we switched mains here. Is we're effectively jumping from level 30 to level 46. Which is massive and just huge for the run because you're cutting out 16 level ups, which are really slow. You don't have to deal with any grinding, and you can just kind of deal with the game with Starmie. Take your time with these answers. You can mash B here instead of A for the next 3 questions so you don't accidentally input incorrectly. If you get any of these questions wrong, you have to fight an optional trainer. Never a good time.
Is it a risk of like dying, or is it
just time loss? Yeah, they're all fire type, so Starmie can deal with them pretty well. It's just not fun. This one you can answer any of those; they're all valid. But first one's just faster. Also, look how excited Eevee is here. Eevee Pogface. So yeah, Blaine is pretty straightforward of a fight. It can get bad if you have a bad Starmie. The ways it can get bad are if you get burned on Magmar, or if you have minimum speed, because Rapidash and Ninetales can outspeed you. This is where there's a little bit of math in my notes. Again, apologies, but it's just telling you, like, if you have this much speed, be careful, and this is the max amount of damage you can take here, so just be aware of those things and you'll be fine. Typically he'll go Confuse Ray. Sometimes he doesn't. If he doesn't, you just go. If he does Confuse Ray, you have these items called Shaler Sable and Pewter Crunchies. These are full heals that you get for free in the game, just from doing the story, so you always have those. Use those to get out of bad situations, or if you run out of other status items. If you get burned, just keep fighting and deal with it. If you get into a situation where you get burned and you're really low HP and like Ninetales can quick attack you, you should just summon the second player, heal with the second player with the Rapidash or Dodo that's out, and just continue on normally with Starmie. Because what'll happen is you try to heal and then you're gonna take more damage by healing, and you only have Sewer Potions right now, which only heal 60, which is not a lot at all. Rapidash has Flare Blitz, this thing has Fire Blast. You are a water type, but they still can hurt pretty hard, so just keep that in mind. Again, only gets really bad if you get burned. Generally, it's fine. There's Dodrio. We only have 3 Pokemon left, and then we're at 50 Pokemon. Or 4? Oh, no, 3. I forgot to mark my choke. The nice thing with Burn is because we are a special attacker, all it does is loses time. It doesn't half our special attack, only our physical attack. Always decline moves on any of these evolutions. Not necessary at all. And now we're going to go fly off to Vermilion, which has a very, very difficult puzzle. Very hard to solve. Hopefully we can do it. If anyone remembers the can puzzle from their childhoods, where you have to find a can in Surge's gym that unlocks the first gate, and then one of the adjacent cans unlocks the second gate. So hopefully we get it first try. If you get burned here, you definitely want to heal, but because I didn't, we're just gonna keep going. Go to Vermilion. This run is probably around, I don't know what pace I'm on. I'm only like 10 minutes behind PB, I think. So like, this is like probably around 3:30-ish for this run. World record for Eevee, any percent no mount skips, is 3:01:05 by me. So that's what like a top time looks like. But that's also, a lot of the older records are more improvable now, thanks to catch rate information that we have. That did not exist back then. So yeah, hopefully I can solve this puzzle. Let me try. Oh, we got it. Okay, that was the first one. Cool. I just kind of picked a random can there. Let's see. So it'll be one of the adjacent ones. Let's try this one. Cool. Oh, we got it. Wow. I can't believe it. Wow. This puzzle's the same every time, so just always do that. Just always do those cans.
I was gonna say.
The color coding, I don't remember why they did that. I think it's just to trick you. Just take the movement path I did, and you'll never be hit by these trainers. You can kind of snake around the cans like that. And then that guy on the left can't see you as long as you don't go between those two cans. So just go like that, and you'll be fine. Yeah, I think especially this game, it's very easy for there to be like a huge gap between a casual time and a speedrun time because of the catching thing, because it's so much easier to just take days and days doing catches when you're just playing casually, having fun, chilling. We are 20 levels higher than this guy, so we're just going to spam Scald and win. This is also why we delay this. There's another reason we delay this fight. Even if we could do Surge as soon as possible, older strats used to get like Dig by doing an extra optional battle to get the Dig TM and then using Dig on this fight. But you don't want to do Surge immediately when you can, because after you beat Surge, you get an extra cutscene with Misty, and it's like just straight up time loss for no reason. But by delaying Surge the way we did, we don't get that cutscene. I don't know what event like has to take place for the cutscene to not trigger, but whatever we do makes that happen. Another fun thing too is we can't actually death warp from like SS Anne to Cerulean, because you know how we run all the way back there. Because as soon as you, I think it's either when you enter SS Anne or when you get chopped down, I think, I don't remember, or when you beat the rival. I think it's when you beat rival. You immediately get your death point set to Vermilion, which sucks, or your respawn point to Vermilion. So if you have any Firestone evolutions, you can do it here. That's a good time to do it. You always want to heal here. Teach Thunderbolt into slot 4. I think technically flipping Thunderbolt and Hydro Pump is more optimal. I don't remember though. And I'll go over some menu tech that kind of confuses that. You can do the Firestone here if you needed to. Now you go to Celadon. I'll show some menu tech in this next fight, because Erica is also very easy. We just spam Psychic and we win.
Okay. We did have one question from chat. Does the order of the switches matter in this version?
I have no idea.
Okay, excellent.
It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't matter.
I would imagine that would be the case if they simplified it, but I haven't played the game, so don't quote me on that.
So Erica's gym requirement is that you show her a cute Pokemon. Chat, I want you to name the cutest or the ugliest Pokemon you can think of right now. Just name it. A Kanto Pokemon. Or I guess Meltan, Melmetal count too. Just name one. And the first one that comes to mind, either the cutest or the ugliest. Muck, okay. There's going to be a delay, but yeah, I don't have to rush it, so it's fine. So while I wait for chat's response, some menu text stuff. So buffering is a thing in this game, and it doesn't come up that often, but when it does come up, it is a very minor time save that you should think about and take advantage of. So I'll show it in battle, but basically, if I hold down before I enter like the move select menu, my cursor will start flying downward in advance as I am as soon as that menu opens. So buffering to get to certain places is really good, and it works in the bag, it works in fight menu, but there's there's limitations to how it works, and I'll show them the bag after the fight too. Okay, all these answers, no matter how ugly or how cute the Pokemon is, Erica's gym checker person thinks it's a cute Pokemon, so you could show it. You could show her a Jinx, you could show her a Muck, totally fine. All Pokemon are cute, according to Erica. I guess in general, all Pokemon are cute, right?
I mean, I guess. Compared to other things.
Okay, so here, let me show this really quickly. So I'm going to try to buffer to the last thing in the menu. So if I hold down right now, press A, you see my cursor kind of move down like that. And again, because this is a joystick, we do all the menu in this game with a joystick, so you don't get the full control with like a D-pad, right? Typically, the best case of buffering in the move select is if you're at slot number 2, like Hydro Pump. You can buffer down to Thunderbolt really fast, like this, and that works pretty well. In bag, buffering is a little bit more useful because of things like if you wanted to get to, say, what's a good example in the bag? Oh, one example is like if you're in the forest and you want to use a raspberry, if you hold right, you just buffer immediately to it, so it saves you a few frames. In the party menu, if you have a Pokemon in slot 4, you can buffer down to it immediately. But there are limitations to how buffering works, and it ends up not being useful that often. Namely, like, it's really hard to explain unless I show it, so I'll just show it in this menu. So yeah, that's the gym leaders we're going to do, and now we're going to go back to doing some story stuff. We're going to go do Silph-Co, and that's like the last story progression thing we have to do. And then we're free to just beat the game from there. So in this menu, I'll explain buffering a little bit more. It's a very minor optimization, but it is good to have it explained at some point. So if I go to the back here, so if I hold down, it starts going down, right? Hold down, starts going down. You can see there's kind of a delay though, right? So it does the first one and then it starts going pretty fast for the rest of them. The way this works is so if I hold down, it'll stop at the next stop point, which is the bottommost thing is the secret key, right? But if I hold down here, what's going to happen is it's going to bring me up to the first item and then start buffering or like holding down. So this is the same buffering I'm doing, or just holding, I guess is a better way to do it because I'm not actually buffering it right now. But this is how it works. So that also means that if I hold right here, it's going to go like this because right wraps around to left. If I hold right here, it's going to do the exact same thing. And if I hold down here, you're going to see it just go back to that. So the way it wraps around, and your first input is always going to wrap around, while the holding it will never wrap around like that. So just something to keep in mind. I'm going to actually not do that first. So I'm going to move Dodrio. Oh, Dodrio's ready in slot 2. Right, because I did the safety strat. So we're going to fly to Celadon, which seems counterintuitive, but cutting the bush and running back around is much slower than just flying back here. So we just fly to the same city, go straight east. Give the T to the Thirsty Guard. Glug, glug, glug. And we have some fun fights ahead of us. This next fight is very safe, as long as you have Dodrio. If you don't have Dodrio, you're forced to do like a Rapidash strat, which I don't describe in the notes because I just want you to get Dodrio. As if you're a beginner, just wait for a Dodrio. It's much better, much safer. The Rapidash strat involves hitting an 85% Fire Blast, otherwise really bad things happen because Executor will set up a light screen and ruin your life. Light screen increases their special defense bulk. Never want to deal with it. Minor optimization there too is when you're going up, you kind of want to face a little left, and then you skip a turn animation. I didn't do it right there, but that's another little thing you want to do. There's a lot of little cutscene entrance optimizations. I didn't talk about them too much because I just don't think they're super important to worry about if you're a beginner. But if you just pay attention to one of my runs and just see how I enter a lot of the cutscenes, you will notice them. So yeah, summon 2-player. We're gonna fight Blue, like the actual Blue, the guy who should have been a rival in this game and is not. He has an Executor and a Charizard. Executor is the only thing our Starmie actually does not have coverage for in the entire game, which is ridiculous because it's just Grass Psychic. Nothing we have hits it. So that's why you have the Dodrio or a Rapidash out. I'm going to feed it an X attack. We're just going to use Drill Peck. Then I'll kill it, no problem. Even if you catch the earlier Doduo, so it'll only be like level 37 or 38 here, it's still one shot. And again, it is forced to be modest, so it's minus attack too, and it still dies. Totally fine, because X items are really good. And then Charizard, everyone's favorite Pokemon. You're going to do Scald and just X-Spec, and that'll always kill it. And then coming up next is the worst fight in the entire game, because it is very much out of your control, and it has a fun little quirk where it just takes 10 times longer for no reason for each turn to process, so that's cool. And you'll see exactly what I mean pretty shortly. This is the only true double battle in the game, that's what speedrunners typically call it, where this is a 2v2 battle with Archer and another rocket person, and our partner is our rival. And our rival leads with a Cubone for some reason, which is not very good. It's the Cubone we saved earlier. And Cubone likes to ruin everything by missing Bone Meringues, using the wrong move, or just wasting time in general. So hopefully we don't see that. The strat here is very simple though. We're gonna hit Muck first, and then just keep hitting down the right side and then finish off the left side when that's all done. But the fight can go a billion different ways. But as long as you just follow that strat, you're fine. Now, if I get Thunderbolts here, I have to keep healing until he stops Thunderbolting, and this is the problem with this fight. Each turn takes this long, for no reason. Okay, this is what I like to call the VGC opening, which is Self-Destruct Protect. It's not a very good opening. You have a chance to get a 4-turn fight, but typically this becomes a 5-turn. If this happens, you just keep Psychicking Muck, till that's over. At least I didn't get thunderbolted, so the fight's pretty safe. It's just kind of slow. We got air slash miss, which is 5%, and then we got bone meringue miss because Cubone targeted the Muck, which was dead, so it tried to bone meringue Golbat. So yeah, now Muck is gone. We do a target the right side. This gets scary because what happens is Eradicate likes to spam Sucker Punch onto you. It didn't do it there, which is nice, but you can always heal if you're scared. So yeah, the optimal version of this fight now is we get Bone Ring again from Cubone. Sometimes it likes to use Focus Energy, which sucks. And hopefully it hits, and then you win the fight, and it's pretty good to get this version. Yeah, I don't know why it takes this long. If you knock out, like, sometimes the left side dies way faster than the right side. That still doesn't, like, increase the speed of the fight. Yeah, okay, I did Focus Energy there. Total waste of time. But that's fine, we're just going to Psychic here. Again, definitely feel free to heal if you need to, because it can't Sucker Punch you if you're healing, because Sucker Punch only works if you're attacking. And that was Wheezing as well. We got the Coughing Evolution here. We're going to knock that out. And now we're done with evolutions. All we get is 2 free gift Pokemon. We get a Lapras and a Porygon. And then we're done with that. Yeah, cinematic effect, yeah. Really makes me feel like I'm in a Pokemon battle. You know what? Now's a good time if you want to throw it to a break. Sure.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Yeah.
So we are going to take a 2-minute break here. We do this regularly on the hotfix just to encourage getting up, stretching, water, taking care of yourself. Just before we go over, I will just remind you all, if you're over on YouTube right now watching, you can go to GamesDoneQuick or twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick if you're interested in live content. It's weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern and ends at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back in just a few minutes after a break for the last bit of learning Pokemon Let's Go Eevee.
Woo!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Games Done Quick Hotfix. This is How to Train a Speedrunner and we are here with Etchy learning Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and we are ready to go into the final block of the tutorial.
Let's do it.
Yeah, whenever you're ready, take it away.
We're going. So, just finishing up Silphco now. There's 2 more fights I have to do. None of them are nearly as scary or as treacherous as that Archer fight was that we called the Arch Double. For some reason, after you beat him in the doll battle, he's like the first person in the Pokemon universe to like stop you after you defeat him to fight him again, but our rival does the fight for us, so that's cool. And we now fight Justine James for the final time in the run. There's another fight with him in post-game, but we don't do it because that's after we beat the game. This fight's totally fine. We are overleveled. We have our awesome Starmie. We're just going to one-shot both of these things. There's a bit of variability here. If Starmie gets hit, you have to heal it. But other than that, nothing really to worry about. So you can do whatever with Dodrio. I'm just going to use Agility here. Okay, so we got Thunderball and Dodrio. That's perfect. I don't need to heal Dodrio here. Dodrio is never coming out in a fight again. So I'm just going to use Agility. It's just a move to use. It's faster to use like a random move than it is to use a random item. The Paralysis was actually pretty good there because Agility would have made it outspeed my Starmie, but with the Paralysis to half the speed, my Starmie was still faster. So I didn't get that extra text out. Next fight's very straightforward as well. Persian will lead with a Fake Out, typically, 9 times out of 10. So you just use the next special attack and then spam Scald, and you win. And then fights start getting scary again after this, but we'll worry about that when we get there. I think there's any other kind of like general things to note that I haven't gotten to yet. Let's see. Oh, random. This is like the most random tip, but definitely calibrate your Joy-Cons before you do runs. It can make a big difference if they're not like calibrated properly. It's just in the Switch like home settings. It takes like 2 seconds to do. I end up doing it like once a week because I'm paranoid. But it just makes sure you don't get trolled by motion control shenanigans. You can also do things like disabling certain buttons. One thing that like most speedrunners will do is disable the left click button, because left click counts as an A input in this game. So if you just accidentally press that, bad things will happen when you don't want them to.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, they literally gave you as many like A buttons in this game as possible. There's ZL, L, stick click, and A are all A buttons, and then X and B are B buttons. So you just have like 8 of your possible 10 buttons are like things into advanced text or screw things up. You always have to talk to this guy. In older games, you didn't have to talk to him, but we have to. Otherwise, he stops you if you try to leave. He gives you the Master Ball. We're not going to use it, but it's cool to have it. Any other... So now's a good time actually to bring up like backup options. So let's say I only had like 48 Pokemon planned here instead of the 50 that I am going to get here. So like with these 2 gift Pokemon, I'm getting a free Lapras and a free Porygon. Let's say with those 2, I'm at 48. There's a couple backup options you can do. You would do things like maybe before I even got Saffron, respawning that route right before, like between Celadon and Saffron, you could respawn with the guardhouse, just entering and exiting over and over again, until you got like an Abra, or maybe you missed Jigglypuff earlier, or Vulpix. Any of those, you could just respawn until you get those. Abra is pretty rare, so hopefully you don't actually have to resort to that. I'm going to show a backup Moonstone, because I think that's pretty useful. Just go to first floor here by going up twice. The backup Moonstone is very slow to grab, but it is, if you just are one Pokemon short at Sabrina, it's the best option for sure. I'll show it, I'll just show it now actually, I don't mind. I'll show it while I'm talking about it, otherwise I might forget later. So you'd actually do this after you fight Sabrina. You just go straight left. You enter this house. I heard about this Moonstone when I was first learning the game, and I could not find it, and it killed my run, so I'm going to show you where it is so you don't lose your mind. So it's just over here. It's behind this bed. You just press A. Free Moonstone. This is the copycat house, if you want an official name for it, or a community name for it. So yeah, with that Moonstone, you can evolve a Clefairy, a Nidorina, or Nidorina. But yeah, you wouldn't do this now, you would do it after Sabrina. But we're gonna get our free Porygon. And if you're down on pokes even more, you should have adjusted earlier in the run by waiting for specific things to spawn. And that is what I would suggest to do. Yeah, I could not find that Moonstone at all when I heard about it. It was really upsetting. So this shopping is like extra safety mode. Gonna go. I just buffered the Hyper Potion there. Gonna buy 15 of these, which is way more than you typically need. Get 11 Max Propels again. The inputs for the shop is written down, so I'm not like, this isn't memorized. This isn't me being like God gamer status. I'm just reading my notes. Getting 31x special attacks, so we are going to use a lot. It's going to be great. Get an X defense. Just a few full heals for safety. And I'm also going to buy a couple of revives, just let's just pretend I used all mine, because this run went really badly. You typically don't even need the full heals, but you never know. And if you use a lot of status items beforehand, it matters. So this puzzle is, again, this is just written completely in my notes. Just follow along, you'll be fine, even if you don't remember the order of how to do things. You have to show a level 45 Pokemon here. Again, that's never going to be an issue in any percent. A little trick here is you always want to aim for the exact center of the teleporter pad before you step onto it, because you cut it on animation. And if that happens, I'll declare it happening. These cycles are generally very consistent, so if you go fast enough, you don't really have to wait for any of these. But 2 of them are kind of inconsistent, and I will show you those ones. So yeah, this one, she's always turning at this time typically, so you can just kind of go straight across. Going straight right here. This spinner can sometimes be facing this way, sometimes not, so you can just wait. I'll show a bad teleporter pad there, so if you don't hit off center, it does a very slow turn and then you walk forward. This is the other trainer that sometimes has random patterns. I would just wait for them to spin and then pass. And then you don't have to worry about it. Sabrina is the first, like, actually not super straightforward fight so far in this run, which is kind of funny that's taking 2 hours to get to this point. What's going to happen here is Sabrina has light screen, and what turn she uses it on will impact what we do. We always want to lead with the next special attack. And then what she does from there kind of impacts things. Or you're always going to lead with 2x special attacks. I don't know where my X specials are. There. So 1 up will take me to my X specials. We got turn 1 light screen, so we just follow the flowchart on my notes. I'm going to use an X speed next. Then I just scald twice. Crit and special defense drop is a little scary, but I should be fine here. Now, there are times where you do a scald and it doesn't do half HP, like Mr. Rhyme will still have green HP. If that happens, you just go for Hydro Pump. If you miss, you just scald the next turn, because light screen will be gone at that point, and you are totally fine to kill it. The reason this fight works out that way is because you want to have the light screen gone by the time Alakazam comes up. If the light screen is still up for this, you just want to heal on the Alakazam, because it might be able to kill you. There's like 46 max, unless you've got like special defense drop. Thunderbolts for this slow bro. And then we scald. Now, if I got light screen turn 2, what I would do is I would still do the 2x special attacks. I would still X speed, but I would stall an extra turn with the Hydro Potion, just to make sure that the light screen still ran out at the correct time. Also, we didn't really talk about it, but Scald has a 30% chance to burn your opponent, which is actually nice here because sometimes it'll give you that extra damage you need to get the 2-shot on Mr. Mime. There is another side effect with Scald that a lot of beginners don't know about, and I didn't know about for a very long time, which is if you are frozen and you use Scald, you immediately thaw out. This is actually relevant in the speedrun in a very, very rare scenario, so always keep that in mind. My notes do mention it specifically in the part where it matters. So, following my notes here, I want to move Hyper Potions to slot 1. I'm going to use one. I'm going to deposit everything here, besides Starmie and Rapidash. Just so they don't get too many extra levels. There's no point in keeping them there. It's better just to deposit them now. Going to use the rare candy, and it's really important to actually see my special attack and speed here. 136 and 135. Very cool. And then we go to our battle pocket. This is where all our X items are. We haven't gone here yet. I'm going to move these X special attacks to the last slot. So what this means is every time in battle now, if I want to use an X special attack, I just go left once and I immediately get to it. And if I want to use an X speed, I just go left twice, and then we're good to go. And then if I needed to evolve like the Moonstone or whatever, I can do that in the same menu. And then we fly to Koga, and now it's time to see if we actually got 50 Pokemon. Because if you do not have 50 Pokemon, he will immediately kick you out, which is really cool. Before we do that, we're going to get some gold teeth here. One thing I didn't mention earlier too is there's no Safari Zone in this game. They replaced it with the Go Park, which is basically a tie-in with Pokemon Go. And how that works is if you have like Pokemon you want to send over from Pokemon Go that are in this game, you can send them over and you can catch them in there. It is not nearly the same as Safari Zone, but they still have the Safari Zone is still like a thing that has an HM, like it is in the original games. He gives you Surf. In this game, he actually gives you Strong Push, which is Strength. So they moved the gold teeth to that beach, basically. So you just got to go there, get the gold teeth for free. In the original games, you have to go through the Safari Zone to get it. So we have 50 Pokemon. We did it correctly. Yeah, there's a separate speedrun category called Kicked by Koga. It is a nightmare speedrun. Do not ever do it. I've done it one time. Because what happens is you try to get to Koga as fast as possible, which means basically doing the lowest amount of catches that you can. But if you do that, you have no experience, and everything is a nightmare. All the fights are so much worse when you're just incredibly underleveled. It's never do that. If you want to do like a shorter category, there's a category called Ditch Bill, which is actually a pretty good beginner category because it just kind of introduces you to the game. You just basically get to Bill as fast as possible, get him in the machine, and then leave him. It's really funny. So this fight's incredibly scary. Moonblast is fine turn 1. Can use Psychic here. Protect's okay. Just Psychic again. Now, if I got Moonblast special attack drop, I am forced to Psychic the Beedrill, which really sucks because I can lose a lot of my Psychics that way. But if you don't get the special attack drop, you can use Scald. That is Hydro Pump, but the Protect means that doesn't matter. Cool. Whoa, double Protect. That's so rare. I am getting incredibly unlucky. You'd like never see double Protect in this gym. Wow. In before, that's never happened before. Yeah, I don't even know the last time I've seen double Protect. It's been a really long time. It's probably been over a year. So that's cool. But now I just go straight to Koga. The movement in this gym is pretty funky. There is a GIF in the notes showing you the movement, so you don't have to worry about it too much if you don't remember. Just don't hit the trainers and you'll be fine. This fight goes very similarly. The most important thing in this gym is if you get poisoned, you always heal it immediately. Just always do it. Technically, like on Caden, the trainer I just fought, sometimes some speedrunners swear by not healing poison, and sometimes they're right, but sometimes they're not right. So I just always, if you're a beginner, I just say always heal it. If you took damage on Caden, you definitely want to heal it before this next fight. If you got trolled. Because this thing does have Explosion, which is scary. If you have really high special attack, you can go for Scald here. I can go for Scald on Venomoth, so I am going to do that. The reason you go for Scald is just to preserve Psychic PP. So I buffered up to Scald there by holding up before I entered the fight. Move selection menu. You can Scald the Golbat as well. My notes don't say, but they should say. Let me fix that. And then you always got to Psychic the Muck. Can Protect, totally fine if it does. Just do it again. So the advanced route will use the Max Elixir after Sabrina. We're going to use it after this fight, or the Elixir, because just in case you get really unlucky with Psychics being protected on here. That way you're not totally out of luck for later. And now we get Strong Push from the Warden. We just go straight to their house. Talk to him. Because we got the gold teeth earlier, we now know Strength. Or the equivalent of Strength, at least. Let's see. I'll talk about some other random stuff for this next cutscene section, but let me do this menu first. So yeah, we're gonna heal here. If you took damage, I'm fine on HP, so I'm not gonna heal. Well, I'll heal for safety. That's fine. Oh yeah, I'm doing safety strats on Giovanni. I totally forgot. So yeah, I don't need to heal then. That's fine. I'll just use the elixir. Where are you? There you are. And then we're going to go use this Max Repel. And we're going to keep the Max Repel up for the rest of the game. And we're going to go straight to Viridian. And now we're caught up on gym badges. There's only one more gym leader left. It kind of flew by the last few of them. And the way you get the gym leader fight to actually activate is just to go here first. A little movement trick here is you want to be closer to the sign than further. If you enter this cutscene from like down here, then the rival actually walks down to you and it's extra time loss. But if you go high enough, he'll just turn to you, and then you're good to go. So he should just turn here. You have to be pretty low for him to walk down. Yeah, so that, again, if I was a little bit further down, he'd do a whole walking animation. You just mash A there, and you get this long cutscene where they explain that mega evolutions are a thing in this game, and you're going to see one at the very end of the run. They're more relevant in post-game. You'll see a lot more mega evolutions, but we're not going to use any. We just need our normal Starmie and we'll be good to go. So, kind of talking a little bit earlier, just like general beginner slash like improvement advice that I would recommend for newer runners, because it took me a long time to like get over a lot of minute barriers in this game, or like breaking down like how I should actually improve in this game. This is probably one of the hardest. So I've run a lot of Pokemon games. I've done almost every generation of Pokemon speedruns except for Gen 2, and that's it. Yeah, I've done everything else. I haven't done like the Alola games, but I've done this, which is technically Gen 7. I've run a lot of them, and this is the one that was definitely the hardest for me to learn to like get really good at, because time loss and time save in this game is a lot less concrete and more. It's just a lot harder to track. So like my biggest advice is definitely focus way more on catching than the actual fights, which is why the beginner notes are set up the way they are. The fights are routed to be very specific and very consistent, so you can just focus purely on the catching side of things, because that's where you're probably saving or losing the most time. And then also just not to worry about your actual individual time loss, like, again, like split to split, because this is not a normal speedrun. You have to break your speedrunner brain. You could be 6 minutes behind at Rock Tunnel and the run can be amazing. Like that's the type of game this is. It is kind of nonsense at times, but it is beautiful nonsense at the same time. And it always hurts to like see beginners reset early runs that are totally fine because the splits look really bad, even if they like do a mental adjustment for like catches. Because a common thing that people will say is like, you can figure out approximate pace by adjusting for catches. So like if you have 15 Pokemon right now and your split on PB has 13 Pokemon, then like you can add a minute to your time, like to that PB split, and that should be approximately where you're at to be like even with it. Like 30 seconds per Pokemon basically. But I don't think that's really a good metric, and I wouldn't really recommend anyone, especially new to the game, kind of gauging their run like that. I don't really even gauge my run like that.
Oh, I mean, I think there's also an important like thing to talk about is like, especially if you're a new runner, like try not to reset as much. Like you're gonna get a lot more value in just completing a run than you are from resetting, even if you're like +2, +4 minutes.
Yeah, and that's like 1,000 times more true in this game, because the hardest thing and the most important thing if you're new to this game is improving at how to get to 50 Pokemon fast. If you can get that down, if you want to reset after you get the 50 Pokemon thing figured out, like if you're at Blaine or whatever, I'll let you do that. That's cool. I don't mind. But you need to get good at that part, because that is the hardest part of this run to get down. But that would honestly be my recommendation if you're trying this game out, is either don't have splits at all when you're starting out, just have a timer, or just only have splits start at Blaine or something, because there's so many factors that go into any individual split time. It's not just amount of Pokemon caught, it's the quality of the fights, it's the amount of experience and levels earned, it's what else is there? There's like how fast the catches were, the quality of the catches, the movement. There's so many things, and not all of it's in your control either. You can be tricked by a run that, or also like menu timing, because sometimes you deposit early, sometimes you deposit late. It's totally fluid depending on how the run's going and what's happening in the run. And there's a lot of times where you'll just be tricked. You'll be like, man, I'm like a minute behind out of Mount Moon, even though my catch count's the same. This looks really bad. And then you do the next split and you're even again, because that's just the way the menus and the experience worked out. So definitely don't get too discouraged. I'm doing a 2-controller safety strat here. What's going to happen is he's going to go for Earthquake, kill my Rapidash, and I don't have to worry about dying here, basically. The advanced strat in this fight is just use an X defend, X special, and then go. But if you get crit, you're basically dead. So this fight is a little bit slower, but a lot safer. You spam Scald here. This is one of those weird edge cases where if you're doing a 2-controller thing and one of your Pokemon is dead, it's still not as fast as a 1-controller fight. It's faster, but the game has like additional animations and lag because there's technically 2 players out. It's really weird. So this is still slower than the normal 1-controller fight, even though this is technically less amount of like menus done. It's very funky.
Wouldn't be a Pokemon like
Yeah, there's some fun stuff with this game. Status lag is another thing I haven't really talked about, and it's more prevalent in Eevee because you tend to dish out statuses more often. Yeah, sometimes if you like burn or paralyze your opponent's Pokemon, and you do like a move selection, the game will just wait an extra like 4 seconds for no reason because it wants to play the status animation. So if that happens, there's nothing you can do. You just gotta wait it out. I think it's much less of an issue on the Pika version because you generally never status anything. This next fight's kind of funky. I do need a menu here. Let me do that now before I forget. I need to heal up Starmie. I also need to revive Rapidash. I don't need to heal Rapidash beyond the revive HP. It just needs to be alive for this next fight because we're going to 2-controller that as well. But yeah, it's so easy in this game to have like... I think I was saying earlier today too, like it's hard to really explain the difference between an okay rock tunnel and an amazing rock tunnel. You can save it in a ridiculous amount of time if things actually go your way like perfectly. So it's really hard to justify killing runs unless you're like, again, grinding for like world records specifically before that point, because there's so many opportunities to come back in the run. So definitely recommend against that. So this fight is a little funky because the order that your opponent sends out Pokemon will vary. Basically what the AI does is it targets one of your Pokemon at random and then sends out the next Pokemon based on which one it targeted. No matter what happens on this fight, no matter what you do, you always X speed on turn 2, okay? Now, if that is one takeaway from today, it's always X speed on turn 2 on this fight. Because Jolteon can come out next, or Raichu, depending on which version you're playing. And if they come out and you X-speed on the same turn that it comes out, then the X-speed will not take effect because it only takes effect the following turn. So it will outspeed you, it will thunder you, you will die. So we're going to use the next special there. So yeah, we're at +4 and +2 speed, +4 special attack. That's all you need to one-hit KO the Raichu or Jolteon. And I'm just going to Psychic and Stomp here. I don't have to actually heal. If for some reason you take damage, then you can heal here, but with the way the strats are out here, that should never really be an issue. And I'd probably recommend healing, actually, Rapidash, just for safety. Oh, speaking of HGSS, I may or may not be back on GDQ in a couple weeks doing something HGSS related, just a little teaser. If you want to see me do the rest of it, I'll do it on my Twitch probably like a week and a half from now or so. I'll be doing Heart Gold Manipulus, which is a very good time. Manipulus Glitchless.
Which you...
Oh yeah, that's the other thing with this run. There's no RNG manipulation in this game, so if that scares you about some games, that's not a thing. No glitches, no manipulation, very straightforward run, very accessible.
Manipulous, which you actually did last year with I hosted that last year, 2 years ago. Oh god.
When was that? I don't even remember.
I'm looking it up now. I want to say it was last September. I want to say it was almost a year ago.
Gosh, yeah, I don't remember at all. I think I've done Gen 4 on GDQ more than like anything else. But it's always been Sinnoh games. It's never been Heart Gold, so that's exciting. But despite that, even though I've done a lot of Gen 4 speedrun stuff, I did a Platinum Glitchless at AGDQ 21. Definitely check out that run as well, by the way. Just a little plug. I'm going to do 2 controller here as well. This is still my favorite Pokemon speedrun, and probably my favorite speedrun overall, again, because it's more like a randomizer than an actual speedrun. There's so much variation and unique situations. It's really fun to grind out and improve that. So this is one of the scariest fights in the run normally, but with 2 controller, it's always safe. You're going to go for Hydro Pump X Special Attack here. If it misses, it's totally fine. If it doesn't kill, it's also totally fine. But if it does kill, cool. Cool. It's scary because Hydro Pump's only 80% to hit, and then it's also only a chance to one-hit KO if you have bad special attack. If you miss, all you do is you just Scald and X Special Attack again. So that brings you up to +4 special attack, and then Scald will kill it no matter what, and it is always going to hit. So it's totally fine. But not always the case here. The advanced strat is just to one controller it and don't die. It's very, very dangerous, very risky. Because if you miss the Hydro Pump in the one controller strat, you are dead, basically. If you don't one-shot it with Hydro Pump, you are dead.
September 18th.
Oh, wow. Also, a very minor detail that has been happening this entire run. You always talk to trainers. Don't let them actually see you and walk up to you. It's really slow. Talking is always faster in this game. In some of the more recent Pokemon games, you let them see you because it's faster, but in this game, they actually walk up to you. And again, I'm not going to detail this fight too much because I just follow the notes. Totally fine. Just do exactly what it says. And the puzzles, if you're not sure how to do the puzzles or where to go, it's all in the notes. There are images. I'm actually going to update the images with, like, better ones soon. Another person already made them. I just haven't put them in the notes yet. So there's a spinner over here. Got to be careful. Another minor optimization here. I'll show this really quickly. So if you notice, Rapidash is one of those mount Pokemon that has like a little bit of a wind up when it starts out before it goes like full speed. So what I'll do on spinner passes like that one is I'll run into the wall because this doesn't really use up repel steps. I'll run into the wall to maintain momentum and then start going when I can safely pass. I do that basically everywhere I can. It also applies with Rhyhorn. You get a free heal by talking to Officer Jenny here, which is not in the original games at all. Very cool that they added that. Very helpful for us. And be very careful with this thing, because if you accidentally push it somewhere where you can't fix it, you have to go up and down that ladder to my left. That is the Moltres ladder, but we're not going to catch Moltres. Moltres, even though it is a high-level Pokemon and we do have the Master Ball, you still have to like defeat it in battle first, so it's pretty slow. And it's also just not good against anything in the Elite Four. Starmie is such like a perfect storm of like coverage and strength to just handle everything in the game except for that one Executor that Blue has. Like literally everything else is fine. Here's a kind of tricky movement pass. If you do screw up this pass, again, not the end of the world. All you do is go back to Jenny, get the free heal again, and then move on. But what you do is you run into this corner over here. You hug this wall so you don't respawn Rapidash again. Run into it. You hug it. And then what I like to do is I kind of like glide up the wall at like a 45-degree angle type thing. See that? Like that. If I just kind of do it slower, I tend to screw it up more. And then as soon as I pass that tip of this like ledge, I'm going to go straight down. Like that. And we dodge this trainer's vision again because their trainer vision is very narrow. And talk to this person. You could fight the left trainer, but it is much scarier because he has an electrode and you do not want to fight that. All these notes and resources for like the tracker I was talking about too are also on speedrun.com. You can always check that out. Just look up Pokemon Let's Go. You can see my notes directly there. So this is the fight where Scald thawing you can actually come into play. If you get Ice Beam Freeze, you have to go for a Hydro Pump, kind of scary. Missed it, you get to put to sleep, pretty bad. But we do have plenty of status heal, so we're just going to heal up. Again, if you get put to sleep, always heal that. Try to hit the Hydro Pump again. Good, thank you. This Starmie is really good. Very solid special attack, very solid speed. So I'm going to get a worse Starmie to show things, but this route is also designed in such a way that even a really bad Starmie will still work pretty okay. There's a couple things that are issues if you have literally minimum speed, but special attack should not matter for all these strats and fights, fortunately, with the way they're routed. Gonna keep progressing from here, and this is the funniest part of the run, where for some reason strength works differently in this game. It's not like the other games where you just use strength once and then you just push. I had to press A like 17 times here to get it to the other side, but it's not the end of the world. Also, very minor thing, but something that confuses a lot of new players. If you notice, I was running straight down as I came down that hole. There's a glitch in this game where if you're holding a direction and you enter a load zone and you keep holding that direction, your character just kind of moves forward in whatever direction it's facing when it loads in for a few seconds. So definitely let go at some point and then hold it again as you're loading in and you won't have that issue. I forgot to do it there. This trainer is actually where we found out about the mount skip stuff. One of the other runners by the name of Cruel just like accidentally skipped this trainer by running past it with Rapidash, and we were like, what? You can do that? And it kind of opened the floodgates for all the mount skip stuff. Again, if you want to see that, it's all on my YouTube. But the mount skip stuff lets us skip all 4 of these trainers in Victory Road, which actually makes the run way more consistent and adds a lot of execution to the run, which is pretty cool. But we're not doing that category right now. So same thing here, just following the notes as written. My notes did say to heal the full technically for this fight. I knew my HP is fine because of math, but you should heal the full before this fight. For the beginning, you should actually listen to the notes, not me. It's hard for me to unlearn all the math.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Well, especially once you've been running for a few years, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I know all the, like, I know the max damage this Pokemon can do.
Yep. So next thing here is to grab this full restore. It's very important for Agatha, unless you want to do an incredibly risky YOLO strat, which is banking on Power of Love to save you. Would not recommend, just always grab it. And that's Victory Road. Now you want to deposit Rapidash and heal up as soon as you can. Or you can keep Rapidash if you have bad special attack, which I strongly recommend. But my Starmie is pretty good. I'll probably just keep it, just to show it. Actually, it doesn't really matter. No, because the only thing I would show is very straightforward. I might actually change the champ strat to show the 2 controller strat with Rapidash, because it is just more consistent and safer. But I'll show the normal strat here. I'm not sure if that's the best thing to point beginners towards. So I'm going to heal. And I guess I will just deposit route. I'll keep it. It's fine. And now we go into the Elite Four. Again, I'm not going to save still. I still have not safety saved this entire run. I will do that, however, once we get to Agatha, the 3rd trainer. Yeah, we're almost done with this run. I hope this has been informative / enticing to anyone who's been even like 2% interested in picking up either like a Pokemon speedrun or a speedrun in general. I think this is one of the easiest Pokemon speedruns to get into. Definitely one of the most accessible ones. And also one of the hardest to master, which makes it really exciting, I think. Because unlike a lot of other Pokemon games where it's like, okay, I got the movement down really well. I know how to do all the fights. I know how to do all the menus really well, and then it's just a matter of RNG grinding from there. There's a lot more variability here, a lot more decision making that you have to do. You're given a lot more agency than other Pokemon games, which is really nice. And I like that aspect quite a bit. So yeah, we're doing the safe version of this fight here, where we just triple expect and then go to town. Just doing exactly what it says using Scald here. The advanced strat is to Hydro Pump this, but because we use 3x special attacks, we're at very high special attacks, so it's totally fine. So 2 controllers makes some fights more consistent and faster, and makes catches infinitely more consistent. So I was explaining it earlier, but originally when this game was being ran, like when it first came out, people did not allow 2 controllers for the speedrun. And what that meant was your average run would have like 30 breakouts. Like, you would fail to catch Pokemon like 30 times straight up. And now with 2 controller, you get 0 to 1 breakouts, 0 to 2 if you are like, if you're good at it, right? I'm gonna heal to full here for safety. It's definitely not needed. So the run's just infinitely more consistent with 2 controllers because the catches break out less, and you get way more experience from catches too by doing 2 controllers. So you're given a lot more control over how bad the RNG can be when you have that. One minor side effect thing is if you keep Rapidash here, you have a chance to get Stealth Rock, which is slightly more optimal than Earthquake, and we did get it there. Stealth Rock doesn't actually matter because we're not going to swap out. Switch to Psychic. One thing here too is Hitmonlee technically has a move called Feint, which is a priority move that can do a little bit of damage to you if you're like really low HP. It's incredibly rare. I would never really play around it. It's never happened to me once. I have seen it happen to other speedrunners though. But I still wouldn't recommend playing around it. Just don't heal, just go. Even if you have like 1 HP, just go. And if you keep Rapidash, that means there's basically no penalty. Because for some reason, all these Elite Four trainers don't have like items. They don't like have Hyper Potions and Full Restores and stuff like you would expect.
Oh. Yeah.
Only like our rival has that stuff pretty much. Like the rival fights have potions and super potions and stuff, but if you like miss a one-shot range in these fights, it's fine. They don't heal it back up, but there's a scary thing with Dragonite on Lance, but we'll talk about that later. So I'm gonna heal the full here, and I'm gonna save for the first time in this run. Again, this is so unlike any other... Oh, I'm at full HP. Because I did say heal earlier. And I got the Stealth Rock. This is so unlike every other Pokemon speedrun that you would do in like a marathon type setting where you save every 5 seconds. I didn't need to get the Repellent, but it doesn't really matter. So this fight can go a lot of different ways. We now have turnarounds officially. We hit the 153 friendship threshold, which means now every super effective attack we do will give us an extra 2 seconds of time loss. But it also means that if we are paralyzed, we have a chance to just heal that for free. So if that happens, you get a really good fight. And you save a lot of time. But if that doesn't happen, it's also okay. That's why we got the Full Restore. We're gonna use an X Special. So in this scenario, what you do is you just immediately Psychic. You need to do an X Special and an X Speed, and then you sweep the fight. I still need to do the X Speed, but if I X Speeded there, Arbok was just going to glare again, and I'd be forced into using the Full Restore. So So I'm going to X-Speed here. They're going to use Thunderbolt. Hopefully they don't paralyze with that 10%. Good. And that's Agatha. That is the optimal fight, pretty much. You can also get Power Glove on turn 2. That one's still good. You just spam Psychic from there and you win. Now, this fight can get really hairy really fast, though. Because what Arbok will do is it'll do Glare into Crunch. Crunch lowers your defense. And that means that when you full restore, if you don't get Power of Love, the next Crunch is going to do even more damage. And this Golbat has Quick Attack. And it can actually do a ton of damage to you if you get 1 or even 2 defense drops. That's really bad if that happens. And what can happen is you like Hyper Potion on the Golbat, and then sometimes it doesn't Quick Attack, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and then it goes for Crunch instead and you die. If it goes for Quick Attack, you just lose time. But if you're in Quick Attack range, the AI is very heavily favored to go for Quick Attack, so you should always heal it and just hope for the best. So you're going to heal in Max Elixir here, and then we're going to save again. Lance is a monster and has crit killed the vast majority of my runs on Pika version in particular. Because out of all the fights in this game, you give Lance the most opportunities to crit you. Because we do a lot of setup on this Seadra here, and Hyper Beam crit will destroy you. So we're going to leave with the next special defense. It's the first time we're using it in the run. Just to give us a chance to not take an infinite amount of damage. This thing has Dragon Pulse, Hydro Pump, and Hyper Beam. That's a really good start to get that dodge. I use the X-Speed and now I got to use 3x special attacks. Hyper Beam, you actually do want to see a lot of Hyper Beam early on because the recharge turn afterwards gives you free setup time. So that's 2. Dragon Pulse is fine. Do not crit me here. 3. Dragon Pulse is totally fine. And that's Lance. Now, there are times where, more often than not, you're not going to have enough special attack to guarantee one-shot the Dragonite. In the notes, it's written out as 140 special attack. What you do in that scenario is you always just summon the second controller here. And you just Psychic Stomp with the Rapidash. Psychic with Stomp with the Rapidash. And then you are good to go. You'll be fine. Otherwise, you just have to rely on getting the one shot, getting lucky. Very scary. Would not recommend. You barely hit level 53 in time for this Dragonite, which is really important because level 53 gives you the extra special attack. And there's also a weird quirk with Pokemon games where any level that ends in 0, 3, 5, or 8 gives you a damage boost unrelated to your stats. So we get that just in time for the Dragonite. Cool, and that's Lance. There's only one more fight left. We're almost done. Can you believe it, chat? The tutorial is almost finished. Champ is pretty scary. Just straight up pretty scary. I think I am gonna rewrite this note to be the 2 controller strat. I don't know. Definitely want to heal and save here regardless. Unless you're doing 2 controller, you just need to heal. I think I'll just I'll give both options in the notes and then people can decide. That probably makes the most sense. So, another thing too here is there's cutscenes in this game that I haven't really talked about. It's one of the options we said at the very beginning that I kind of cut out from this tutorial, but it is written in the notes. It's not a big deal. For cutscenes like this, you just press the minus or plus button. You can skip it, so you can just keep clicking it, keep pressing it until you skip it. This is one of the scariest fights in the run as well because you're also just giving this Pidgeot a lot of time to hit you. And it's not just a regular Pidgeot, it's a Mega Pidgeot. The first Mega Evolution, the last one we see. Mega Pidgeot is very scary. Because it's not even just that it's a strong attacker, it's also really bulky too. Just gonna leave the X special defense. Because this thing's gonna spam Air Slash, which is a special attacking move. We want to see misses. We don't want to see crits, because that will basically kill us. You do have power level, though, so there's a chance you just tank the hit. Gonna X speed. Gonna X special attack here and not get crit. So in this specific scenario, it's not gonna happen, but usually what happens... maybe it will because my defense is low. I'm not sure. No, it didn't happen. Usually what happens is he knocks you into quick attack range, he goes for quick attack, you heal on that turn, and then you win from there. Quick attack's nice to bait out because a quick attack crit won't kill you, whereas an air slash crit will kill you a lot of the time. But that was a pretty clean setup. Totally fine. So I'm just gonna use Psychic a bunch. This fight's actually a little different on Pika version because of the difference between Jolteon and Raichu, which is your opponent's like starter Pokemon evolved. It's really unfortunate that Eevee version, or Pika version's rival decides to evolve into Jolteon always, because it really screws over Starmie. Jolteon's really bulky, quite a bit bulkier than Raichu, and that means usually you have to do more setup. Typically what that means is you do an X special attack on Vileplume, because Vileplume will basically always go for Solar Beam, so it's just a free turn to set up. One more Psychic here. And again, we could be using Scald on like Rapidash Marowak, but we do lose 2 seconds thanks to the friendship turnaround thing I talked about, so you want to Psychic everything when you can. And the last Pokemon, Slowbro. Thunderbolt. Alright, and that is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I talked a lot at the start, talked a little less as the run went on. Hopefully this was even remotely enticing for anyone to check out the run. Time will be at the fade out on Hall of Fame, so I'll call that when we get closer. I started with this as my first Pokemon speedrun. I think it's the best Pokemon speedrun. I think it's the funnest one to play, period. I think it's the most interesting one to play, period. It's also a really fun one to watch because of the variability run to run. And the other nice thing with this game too, which I didn't really talk about, is like, you know, if you're playing Pokemon Sapphire, for example, you're resetting the first like 45 minutes nonstop because that game is really unfair and unfriendly to the runners. But this game, you get to like the 1 hour mark pretty often because runs just don't die that quickly. There's so many opportunities for runs to like have a chance to claw back that you just end up getting out of early game a lot more often, which is really cool. And time. Wait, is that? Oh, this is like a 3:20. Wow, jeez. That's better than I was expecting. This like tutorial to take close to the 4 hours, honestly, because I expected me to like stop a lot more, but I was able to explain things as I was like doing other things, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah, and so like there was like a lot of it was like very. I'm phrasing this poorly. Tired. Like everything seems pretty straightforward. Like there is a little bit of a learning curve.
Yep.
Obviously, like the timing for catching and stuff like that. But and how to use the motion controls, which an entirely different story.
I swear it's not that bad. Yeah. I swear. Yeah, like the biggest thing that I try to talk about a lot, but I could still like it's the type of thing I just talk about endlessly for hours is like catch routing stuff. It's really hard to like package that all into like a 4 hour tutorial.
Yeah.
The best way to like get good at the catch route though is just to do it. You need to figure out like, okay, how do I make up for these situations where this Pokemon doesn't spawn, or like I don't get this thing or that thing. Because again, typically the way you go fast in this game is not waiting for things. But when you're a beginner, definitely just wait for things to spawn. It's better to get to 50 Pokemon as much as possible, as often as possible.
And it'll also help you like learn what Pokemon are where and give you a better idea of what options.
For sure. Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. There's another thing for explanation stuff. Oh yeah, the notes that are linked have a lot of good other documents linked at the top of it, specifically again the logic behind the catch route thing and the FAQ. The logic behind the catch route thing will explain a lot more details about how to figure out what you should and should not catch. But yeah, definitely check those out.
So you did talk a lot about learning in general throughout the run. Do you have any other tips maybe for speedrunning that you haven't already shared?
Just like in general, or this game specifically?
In general, unless you have something specific for this game.
I think I covered a lot of the specific game stuff. I think in general, I think the one thing that I've always like tried to keep in mind and not kind of consume me, I guess, is just to, or let me rephrase that. One thing I've always tried to not do, and I think this game has helped me with it too, is not resetting as much, and also like not giving yourself a chance to improve and improve more, in the sense that like it's really easy to like be on a run and lose, X amount of time and be like, man, if I play my best the rest of this run, I can still only save like this amount of time. That's only if I play like perfectly. But you can always improve, except for like obviously like if you're doing like a task perfect game or like one of those types of things. But for something more like dynamic like this, there's always opportunities to improve. There's always ways to keep getting better and better and just shave more and more seconds and frames off of your times. And a lot of times you don't really pick up on it until you've actually improved that amount. And it's really easy to lose out on that if you're resetting too much or not giving yourself those opportunities to improve. And it doesn't have to be necessarily through resets, even just like practice too. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is not to trick yourself into thinking you're done improving ever. Because 99% of the time you can always do better at anything in a speedrun. Again, except for very specific cases.
Yeah, like there are a few games that I can think of where it's like, but like it exactly like you said, in most cases, there's always ways to improve. There's always more time saves, just more there that you can improve on. And the best way to do that is to not reset. Like,
yeah, and the other thing too is like I am also a big proponent of don't finish a run if you're like really upset about it, but try to like power through things as much as you can. Like I don't force myself to finish runs I hate or runs I like I'm really unhappy about, because the other thing too is like it's also easy to like don't keep a run alive if you're not going to get anything productive out of it, because I'm not the type of person who does no resets. I don't get anything out of no resets, because for me the experience and the pressure of doing an actual run that has a chance to PB is way more valuable to me than doing a no reset. But if it has any chance to PB, then that's something I try to like push through and go for, even if it's a 1 in a million type chance. I think
I agree. I don't like doing no reset runs particularly, but I think it is a good mindset to have, especially when you're beginning. And like you said, if there's a run you just absolutely hate, don't carry. It's you're not gonna have, if you're not having fun, or it's not going to help your gameplay. But if you make it, so the example that I use is when I was speedrunning the Grinch, I used to reset. This was like 8 years ago, before I broke this habit. I used to reset over a 1 second time loss in the first minute. Which is not worth it in any game unless you are at pass levels. But
Super Mario Brothers top 50 type thing, or top 100.
Exactly. Otherwise, just stop doing. Don't reset over a 1 second time loss in the first minute in a 40-minute game. Right. It's not worth it. Just play the game.
Right. Yeah, and with this run again, I mentioned this earlier too. But what I strongly recommend is, if you are new, at least carry runs to Blaine, just to give yourself more experience with the catch routing side. And if you don't want to finish it at that point, it's totally fine. I don't care. I'll forgive you if you decide to reset every run at Blaine for your first 10 runs. I don't think I finished. My first few practice attempts were just getting through the catch route stuff, because it is the hardest thing to get a grasp on. But once you get it, it's it is truly a magical speedrun. I love this game and I love this run. Definitely recommend it.
Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we end here?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, if you want to see a lot of other Let's Go stuff, I do a lot of alt main speedruns. So, like, one of the recent ones I did was beating the game with Alola Marowak. That was pretty cool and also awful because Alola Marowak is terrible in this game. Or if you want to see the mount skip stuff, the cool glitch thing I was talking about, it's all on my YouTube. You can check that out. Or you can also just follow me on Twitch. I stream a lot. I will do runs of this tomorrow and probably a lot next week because I'm trying to reclaim Pikachu no mount skip world record. And then if you like seeing other Pokemon games too, I run a lot of those as well. I'll be running some Heart Gold on my stream in like a week and a half or so for another GDQ thing, which I don't even know if I'm actually allowed to announce it yet, but I'm just going to tease it a little bit. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm doing that for a race for Think Fast. I don't remember how many weeks it is from now, but that'll happen. It'll be a lot of fun. So definitely check out that. It'll be a Heart Gold Manipulous Glitchless race. And yeah, definitely would appreciate any follows. I think I'm really close to 7,000 followers, so I would appreciate that. And if you have any questions about this run, feel free to ask me. You can just DM me directly, or you can just straight up join the Switch speedrunning Discord community. More than happy to. Everyone there is really nice, and more than happy to help you out with any questions you have. And that's it for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's one of my favorite things about the show is having passionate, knowledgeable runners come on and share their game. So thank you so much for being on. The speedrunning community is a great community. I want to help see more people join the community. So
for sure,
I appreciate
for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show. Etchy, he talked a little bit about it himself, but Etchy, great runner, very talented and entertaining. So absolutely check out his stuff. Besides that, that's all I've got for you. This is the last show tonight, so I do have a few quick announcements before we end. So just a reminder that Flame Fatales did just finish its most recent all-women speedrunning event, Flame Fatales. You can check out the playlist over at youtube.com/gamesdonequick to find any of the runs you missed. We do also have a new highlights channel, which features a lot of standout moments from our hotfix shows. You can use exclamation highlights in Twitch chat. You can tell that I was in the hype FF mode. That's just exclamation FF is just my go-to. But exclamation highlights on Twitch chat. You can learn more about that. Like I said, this is the end of the show. We are going to raid a speedrunner. If you wouldn't mind just sticking around through the break while we look for a raid target, that would be amazing. Thank you for watching, everybody. Enjoy the evening.
Bye.